question. Suppose, Lord Russell, this film were to be looked at by our descendants, like a Dead Sea Scroll in 1,000 years' time. What would you think it's worth telling that generation about the life you've lived and the lessons you've learned from it?
I should like to say two things. One intellectual and one moral. The intellectual thing I should want to say to them is this. When you are studying any matter or considering any philosophy, ask yourself only what are the facts and what is the truth that the facts bear out. Never let yourself be diverted either by what you wish to believe or by what you think would have beneficent social effects if it were believed. But look only and solely at what are the facts. That is the intellectual thing that I should wish to say. The moral thing I should wish to say to them is very simple. I should say, love is wise, hatred is foolish. In this world, which is getting more and more closely interconnected, we have to learn to tolerate each other. We have to learn to put up with the fact that some people say things that we don't like. We can only live together in that way. And if we are to live together and not die together, we must learn a kind of charity and a kind of tolerance, which is absolutely vital to the continuation of human life on this planet.
Hey, everybody. Hello there. Welcome. So happy you could join us on this Saturday night. We're doing it. We're doing the review of Nope, and it's finally been released. Jordan Peele, I guess our generation's Alfred Hitchcock. Some people have been comparing him to John Carpenter this weekend. We're close. I think we're getting there. We'll see. Let's see what the rest of the panel has to say. Want to say before we bring them on, hello to Kent Bye. Kent Bye, what's shaking, brother? Haven't seen you in a while, man. Thanks for being here. Lou Wings says, greetings from New Jersey. Great group tonight. Can't wait to hear the verdict of Nope. Matthew Wright says, damn, I can't watch this. He hasn't seen it yet. Loves us all and hope it's a good show. We'll come back and check this out because, yes, by the way, there's going to be a ton of spoilers in this. Good evening, Mans. Good evening, Zenith. Good evening, Evolve Media. Preston Gadget. Guys, let's do this. Let's bring on the panel. Let's review Nope. Again, this is a full spoiler review. So if you haven't seen the film or if you're just cheap and you don't want to see it, stick around. We'll pretty much break down the whole thing for you. But if you don't want spoilers, don't watch this. Come back and watch it after the show, see if you agree with us. Anyway, let's do this. Let's bring on Rather Be Squidding. Sam, hey. Also known as Tupacabra, brand new to the UFO scene. What's shaking, dude? And then, of course, our friend for a long time, Mr. Ryan Sprague. Guys, how are we doing tonight?
Doing good. I just left the theater.
Yeah, you just left the theater. So the movie's fresh in your brain. I saw it yesterday morning with the lady. Same with you. Rather
not with the lady, but yeah.
Yeah, last night for me.
Last night for you. All right, cool. So, gosh, where do we start with Nope? I guess let's just get overall impressions, right? Like, I mean, let's start with that. Where does this fit in the Jordan Peele catalog of films? Like, I don't know if this is, I think Get Out is his masterpiece, right? That's what he's known for. And then we have Us. And then am I missing one? Other than...
No, I think that this was his trilogy.
And then Nope. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, Sam, let's start with you since you're our first time guest to the show. So welcome. And we're going to have Tupacabra back for the big phone home, you guys. We're going to go a deep dive into his UFO timeline. And by the way, I'm pretty sure I put everyone's link in the description below. If I haven't, pretty sure I have, but if I haven't, I will include them after the show, so you guys please go check everybody here out. But let's start with you, Sam. What do you think?
Oh man, I mean, his first two films are great. I loved Get Out, and I loved Us. Like, I really liked Us, because I felt that Us was just, the production was so big, so much more grand, more sets, more scenes, more things. And then this, I think, is so different. It felt so different. It wasn't this weird kind of mystery horror, like, maybe because I'm used to seeing videos of crafts in the sky, or like, you know what I mean? But like, for the most part, it felt a little bit more grounded, and the objective was pretty clear. Like, they laid it out pretty clear, and you're contained with just two people, for the most part, 2-3 people, an ensemble cast towards the end. But in that sense, I thought it was like, maybe his Signs, right, where it's a bigger thing but contained within one house, within one family, one situation. So I think if I had to rank him 1, 2, 3, it would go, and people are probably going to hate me for this, but I think it would go Us, Nope, and then Get Out.
Us, Nope, and Get Out last.
Yeah, I think so.
Wow. Jordan Peele, if you're listening, I wonder what he thinks of that. That's interesting. No, that's interesting.
Well, they're all three great, but I mean, if I had to rank them, just in terms of like in order of themselves, that's how I would do it.
So Us, Nope, and Get Out.
Yeah, I think so.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, he's hitting. I don't even think he's hit his stride yet, and so you have this.
No, I don't think so either.
Like some of the
really early in his filmography.
Right. And you could feel him kind of borrowing, like that idea of Hitchcock, like, for sure, right? Carpenter, I don't know, but like the Hitchcock thing, the M. Night Shyamalan vibe is there at certain times, and it really adds to this. Like, he's not afraid to set a scene. We get to watch, a shot of clouds for a little while. Like, that's cool. Like, it's a concept in a situation where a genre where people can throw so much at you, and so it was just really toned down for me. I like that. That was really cool.
Yeah, that's a good point. I when you say Shyamalan and Hitchcock, I feel the thing that compares him to Hitchcock, or what makes me feel like Hitchcockian when I watch his movies, is he scares you with the camera, and he lets your imagination do the work. Like especially with, and we'll get into the monkey, which is crazy. And I love that. I wonder if that was just like a call to his production studio, Monkey Paw Studios.
Monkey Paw, yeah.
And he's like, oh, finally, I can fucking work in a crazy monkey thing that I've been thinking about forever. It was cool, but yeah, like he lets your imagination go wild, and I think that's what, instead of, because I'm not usually a huge fan of horror movies. Because I'm like, the gore, the brains, the guts,
the jump scares.
Yeah, but if it's justified violence, for some reason, I'm okay with that. Like, it can be as gratuitous as you want, just as long as the violence is like a necessity, I guess, in the film. Not that violence is ever a necessity.
Equal to the stakes of the film. I got you.
But what do you think, Ryan? I want to go to you next. Because, I mean, you're a playwright, you're a screenwriter, you're an actor. What do you think?
So I was like one of 4 people in my theater, which was awesome. Like, I went at 11:30 in the morning here in Queens. I had like literally, I think, like 10 rows to myself. And that made it actually a lot creepier. Because there wasn't that kind of like, with big movies with everyone in there, you start to feed off the energy of everyone. You've got that big cinematic experience. I felt like I was like kind of there with them, and I actually think I have the same 1, 2, 3 as Sam does, to be completely honest.
Right.
I stared at the screen for about 20 minutes after the movie because I wasn't sure how I felt about it. A part of me felt kind of disappointed, and then as I walked home and as I like ruminated on it all day, literally all day, I don't remember like going to work. I don't remember what I had for dinner. All I could think about was this movie. And that's exactly what Jordan Peele wants you to do.
Yeah.
You don't leave them. If you leave a movie and, it immediately leaves your mind, like that means it was either just pure entertainment or it didn't impact you. And I'm still thinking about Nope. Exactly, man. So,
Exactly what? Oh, I thought you were supposed to say bless you there.
God bless you. God bless you. So yeah, I think I would have to rate them the same as Sam. I
Yeah.
thought Us was the most visceral, and I think had a lot of themes and messages. Obviously, so did Get Out, which was his first film, and he hit the ground running. Nope is a completely different beast, and I know we'll get into it. A lot of it was right there in front of you. There wasn't a lot of crazy subtext and really, really, really deep themes. They're there, and I'm sure we'll get into them. But this was his homage, I think, to a lot of things. Jaws is the first thing that comes to mind for me.
God, you stole my take, Ryan. Damn it.
Dude, I'm sorry.
You stole my take. That's the danger of not going first.
Take it from that's what you get for letting me talk.
Go ahead. No, that's a great point.
Hitchcock as well. I actually watched an interview earlier where someone compared him to Hitchcock. He was like, please don't compare me to Hitchcock. That dude was a total creep, which is true. Hitchcock was kind of a creep.
Not kind of. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you think of it that way, sure.
He had some issues.
But I don't.
But who doesn't?
It's not the first. I understand his point.
But yeah,
I'll respect it from now on because I've obviously just compared him to Hitchcock. But I'm thinking from a cinematography standpoint.
Absolutely, this was, I think, his most
the
ambitious
trick she does
film.
with the camera. Yeah.
Yep. And this was his first IMAX film, which I think says a lot too. And it showed that the desert landscape and the night shots. And again, please stop me if I'm going into too much. But
no, it's full spoiler alert.
Beautiful movie. Just I've never seen nighttime shot like this, and it just oh my god, it blew me away. And I know the cinematographer was one of Christopher Nolan's people who shoots all his stuff. So all the power to Peele. He we'll get into it, but I honestly think this is my favorite movie of his, and it's not just because of the UFO aspect. So that's all I got for now.
Rather, what do you got?
Yeah, I loved it. I agree with kind of both of you. I saw it at one of the big IMAX theaters out here in Seattle, and just pretty much blew me away. The cinematography and just how gorgeous everything was, and the sound, and just it really kind of put you there. The acting between the siblings I thought was amazing. Really, really had that dynamic nailed down. I did kind of at the end of it, I was left with some questions. It didn't really go into the UFO issue as deeply as maybe I would have wanted it to, but it did leave you with like a lot of really interesting things to think about. And I think that the take on the biological UFO was really pretty amazing. Really kind of left me thinking, and I think it's a very interesting take. And it's my favorite movie of his. Wow, number one. Yeah, I think so. It might maybe because it's just so fresh, but I really enjoyed it.
I think I'm not gonna put it at number one. I think I'll put it a tight, very close to number one as is number two. But I'm gonna swap Us and Get Out because I don't know. For me, like in Us, I feel like he painted himself into a corner story wise a little bit at the end there, where I'm like, I don't know if this makes sense. I get the premise of it and the messages he's trying to put in there. But the ending of it, I was just like, this doesn't feel tied up as nicely as I'd like. And he also won an Oscar for Get Out. So, I mean, to put it at number 3 for me, I feel like is wrong. But
they're all good movies.
They're all good movies. And we're splitting hairs between the three. And I was going to say, to each their own. But here's what you stole the words right out of my mouth, Sprague.
Sorry.
It is this to me, this movie is an ode to Jaws. It is Jaws on land, essentially. They're trying to figure out how to kill this predatorial monster. But there's rules to this predator. And so that's and the rules, I think, for the predator obviously are transcending a different kind of message, but I thought it was awesome. And I also think he really did his research on the ufology, on the history, because for him to get biological I feel like he read that in research somewhere.
That was Ivan T. Sanderson stuff from like the 50s and 60s right there.
Yeah.
Which that blew me away. That kind of twist, or if you want to call it a twist, I was like, damn,
I think
dude.
if you know the lore, it's not that big of a twist. But I think the twist is that, it's not here to, because it's here to eat us. Like, you know, like that is for me the twist. So okay, let's, I guess, start off with the first, I guess the premise of the film or the overall story here. And like I said, it is like an ode to Jaws. I mean, you've got, so for me, like Daniel Kaluuya would be Roy Schneider, essentially. And like Kiki Palmer would be Dreyfus, and Brandon would be like a combination of Dreyfus. And then Michael Wincott, who plays Antlers Holst, who plays Michael Wincott. He's Quinn.
Yeah, totally.
He's totally Quinn. Like, but there are a couple of things, and we'll get into it, but there are some things I didn't like that just felt way out of place. And I think I don't want to go too far ahead, but what do you guys want to start with this? Like, what was the first interesting thing of this film? Rather, what do you got?
Well, I mean, I think I don't know if we want to go there yet, but not of planet Earth. Do you think that was accurate? Is that an accurate acronym? Because
see, that's
I don't think so. I wanted to.
I think it's an animal that has been here forever.
Yeah, I didn't see this as extraterrestrial. I think that thing's been in the atmosphere forever, and they were just now noticing it. I don't think it was alien. I honestly don't. But that's, of course, all. And Peele never spells it out, and I love that.
Right.
We have no idea what that UFO was.
I feel like here's what we do know. There's got to be more than one, and it's territorial.
Yes.
So that definitely means there's more than one. You know, like those are the two. Like for that to exist, that means it had to have mated with something. It just didn't exist. You know, and so to me, it's an animal that has been there the whole time, and I think maybe there's few of them, so they're hard to pick up, or these strange. Like I loved when the entire audience for the horse show, you know, the bait show, essentially, they disappear in the news. It was like, oh, there was rainstorms and floods, and that's how maybe they disappeared. And so like they're justifying all of this really weird behavior and odd things with rainstorms, you know. So like I see what you're saying there, Rather. I mean, what do you got, Sprague?
Yeah, I agree with Rather. I think the UFO itself was probably the most interesting part of it. But I think we should kind of start like in the beginning with something that does play into the rest of the movie. But this whole chimp thing with, was what a way to start a movie. I mean, I literally was like grabbing my seat. I'm like, what? I thought I was here for a UFO movie. What is this? What's happening?
Right.
And that was just terrifying, seeing that scene play out in the very beginning with like, you don't exactly know what happened, but you know something really bad happened with a chimp. And holy hell, like that whole subplot just knocked my socks off. It was terrifying.
Well, let's talk about it. So you know, again, spoiler alerts, but the character that is played by Stephen Yeun, his name is Ricky Jupe Park in the film, and when he was a kid, he was on a sitcom where they had this monkey, as part of the sitcom, and this non-fictional sitcom, and the monkey goes crazy and rips the entire crew apart, and up to a point where they had to come in and kill this monkey. And this in the movie, this show is like 2.5 Men. It's like the biggest show in America, and this, Stephen Yeun's character lives through this insanely traumatic experience of watching this monkey rip apart human beings and bash their skulls in. It was a crazy subplot. But yeah, Sam, what did you think of that subplot? What did you think of that that whole. And again, like we were talking pre-show about the Monkey Paw Productions, and this. I mean, I'm wondering, like, again, if this was kind of like an idea of that Jordan Peele's had for a long time, and he's like, oh, finally, you know, Robin, I get to put this crazy monkey scene that I've been dreaming about forever in a film as a subplot, and it worked.
I think that'd be really funny. That'd be really funny if that was the case. It almost feels like a really dark opening
short story,
Monkey Paw production graphic. You know what I mean? How they have like had at the beginning, it was this whole production of like a train car and a teacup with a random monkey paw stirring the thing, and it's like monkey paw. But this feels like an alternative cut to that, like just a bloodied monkey. You know what I mean? Raging around a TV set. Like I thought that was a crazy.
I was gonna say, sorry to cut you off, but how much you want to bet in his next film that Monkey Paw production animation changes to include something from this flick, like a balloon pop or something like that? But anyway, go ahead.
A Gordy shirt or something.
Right, yeah.
Dude, for real. I thought it was great the film opened with it. Because then you kind of knew, like, right away, this isn't, you know, it could have opened with stars or with anything. Sorry, there's a fire truck going by.
That's all right. Ryan lives in New York City. I live in LA.
It's like my lullaby, dude.
Yeah, seriously.
Right. So, like, it opened with it, so you knew it was going to be great. You knew, like, it's going to kind of come back around. And then to keep, like, cutting back to it, I thought it was a great device. Because, number one, it's this very intensely traumatic moment. It's gruesome and brutal, and it's easily the most brutal part of the movie. I mean, you know, like, so like, you have this thing to kind of cut back to. That's what it reminded me of Signs, where they would cut back to the car accident, right? Shyamalan would cut back to that car accident and remind you of Mel Gibson, Graham, remind you of his trauma, right? This traumatic moment that kind of like jump started the entire thing, right? Because in Signs,
and it also anchors his you know, atheism throughout the whole film, and his refusal to commit back to God.
Exactly, right? By the end of the movie, you understand that that's the moment he said he just gave up, and he was like, he started to hate God. And then you realize, like, you know, do these aliens come just to convince him that like to like become a priest again? You have no idea. So Signs is great because of those. It causes that point, those two things to come to a point. And in this film, I feel like, you know, you have this dude, I forget his name, Park,
Ricky Park in the film. Yeah, Stephen Ju.
Yeah, right. So you have this like intensely traumatic moment, right? And it keeps cutting back to it. And then, you know, then you find out towards the end that Ricky had this weird long-term relationship with this phenomenon. He was seeing it, and him and his family were figuring it was
for 6 months
or something. Right. Yeah. And then you hear, like, before that, you hear dude, like the main character, forget his name again already. I just saw the film. You hear him say, like, I think I've been looking at that same cloud for about 6 months now. So you realize, like, holy shit, like, so like Ricky is brought something about him, right? Brought this thing around. It was something about, it was centered around him, centered around his story, centered around that trauma. And then they cut to this moment where he's looking at the set of all this madness. And, you know, no one's around. It just screams. You hear this monkey moving around. And there's this shoe just kind of like sitting there, almost like on end. It doesn't belong. It doesn't belong there. Why is it just like that?
And here's what I think that is. Somebody brought it up also in the start comment. I think the shoe was part of his collection that little secret collection that he charges people with.
Interesting.
And that shoe was something I think he was focused on while he was reliving the trauma. I don't think it has anything to do with aliens or UFOs or anything like that. I think what happened, and of course there's gonna be people breaking down this film. I'm sure Jordan Peele will give more nuggets as we get there. But I think the reason why that character, Ricky Park, he stumbled upon it because he was buying the horses from OJ's character, and he learned that he could feed this thing, and he thought he can wrangle this monster, it almost felt like an alligator park. You ever been one of those in Florida where you got the alligator wrangler and he puts it in a, holds his jaws and he puts his hands out or feeds them chickens or whatever? That's what that whole presentation in that thing felt like for me. And so to me, I think that's like, you could never, like, and Kent Bai put this here in one of the comments. Jordan Peele on a Variety says the two key themes in Nope are you can't tame a predator. And so that's exactly what happened with all those people at that park. I think just the predator was like, screw the horse. I want them.
Right.
I want them.
Can I touch on that, Lou?
Yeah, go for it.
I think too, like, we see Ricky is the only survivor of this massacre by the chimp. And they clearly had a relationship, him and this chimp, where, instead of murdering this kid, he gives him the fist bump. And I think that was a moment of this chimp being like, I'm done. You can't tame me. I'm done doing your song and dance. You're going to stop making money off of me. I'm going to murder you all. And he gave this kid a chance, I mean, maybe he would have killed him. We don't know, because the chimp ends up getting killed in the process. But I think it was a test for Ricky, because then he went on to continue to be in show business and once again try to, quote unquote, like, tame a predator, and the predator being the UFO. So I think this could have been a redemption for Ricky to move on with his life, get out of show business, and stop the spectacle after this traumatizing event. But what happens to most people in show business? It doesn't matter how traumatized they become. They continue the sort of, tempestuous and extremely toxic environment at times, just to make another movie, just to make another buck, just to make, to keep relevant. And I think that's what we see in Ricky is, this horrible event happened to him and he was given a chance to live his life a different way. And he chose to continue to try to tame the beast. And obviously it didn't work out too well for him. So that's why at first I thought that subplot was very disconnected. But the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, okay, this makes perfect sense. And the flashbacks, those could be deadly. Trust me. In screenplays I've written, they're often a crutch for exposition, but I think he used them so well, and it intertwines so well in this film that you barely realize they were flashbacks. It just felt like one linear story being told. So yeah, I think they were right. One of the main things is you can't tame a predator, and we see that with this opening scene, and then what happens later in the film.
Well, I had the same impression you did, Ryan. I read a Reddit thread, and there's a detail that kind of escaped me, but I think it's really kind of very interesting in retrospect, which is when Jupe was there under the table and this chimp looks dramatically at him, there's the tablecloth is obscuring his eyes. So this Reddit thread was postulating that the chimp didn't kill Jupe because Jupe couldn't make eye contact with him. That kind of goes along with all those themes of the movie. And then Jupe, kind of misinterprets that whole thing, thinking that he had that communion with the chimp. Yep. And he thinks that maybe he can leverage that same sort of connection with the thing in the sky. And he turns out to be wrong.
He can't,
That blows my mind. Yep.
Well, that's also like, isn't that like one of the rules in like survival training when coming across dangerous predators? Don't look them in the eye. Like literally, you're supposed to crawl into a ball for most of them. I don't know, but I'm not a nature expert, so please don't take this advice. But yeah, I mean,
even with like dogs, you're not supposed to look them in the eye because they get very uncomfortable.
Right.
So I think you're right, and I think again, it says so much about like our human condition. Like we want to look, no matter how gross or it's like the whole car wreck thing, like you don't want to look, but you have to look, sort of thing.
Yeah, you can't. It's like watching NASCAR for the wrecks.
Exactly.
Yeah. But also, I feel like there's a subtext to that as well of like trying to tame Mother Nature.
Yep. Yeah. Look at every animal in this film. I mean, it's there. Even it's almost as if the animals were working with the UFO. You've got like. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about. They're trying to film this UFO. That's like kind of the big obstacle in the movie is to get that shot of a UFO. We as ufologists dream of the perfect shot. And what happens when the camera's finally trained on it? You got a freaking mantis like crawling in front of the camera, a mantis of all things.
Yeah.
Like right there, I'm like, good call out, Jordan Peele. And again, I think a lot of the animals in this movie were working in tandem with the quote unquote UFO. And there's something to be said for that. Again, like we use these animals, the horses as well, as like props, and we'll do whatever we want to them, run them into the ground just for the good shot.
It's interesting that the predator couldn't figure out the difference between a statued horse and like fake eyeballs versus real eyeballs, like or like it wasn't like the Predator from the 80s movie where it had like heat vision, you know, or infrared or anything like that. It was literally the thing that it almost felt that, well, let's talk about this creature, right? It was its predatorial shape looks like a UFO. And but by the end of the movie, it sort of morphs into its true form, so to speak, and it's almost like a jellyfish. It's very, very, very naturalistic. I mean, it looks like something. Something like I was going to say
between an octopus and a siphonophore. Like
yes,
some type of,
it looks like something you would find
creature.
12 miles underwater.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like where there's no light. Like one of the thing that I thought was really cool, and I'm curious to know if that's what this was. When this thing eats, and it eats the humans especially, it re-echoes their screams. And to me, that made me think of that fish that's got that little antenna that's got like a little wavy shrimp fish looking thing, and it looks like a fish in distress. And when another little fish comes to eat it, anglerfish, that's it. Yeah. And when another fish comes to eat it, bam, it hits it. And I was like, man, is that, after watching the movie, I was like, I wonder if it, because when it came over the house and it started, shooting all that blood and all the screaming. Yeah. To me, I wonder if that was the animal trying to lure the prey out, like the screams. He's like, oh, this is the sounds they make to each other. So maybe if I re-echo these, they'll come out of the house.
It's like trying to call it slowly digested.
That's rather, I'm with rather. I love that idea that like it's a call, like almost like a mating call sort of thing. But I honestly think they were slowly being digested.
Oh, without a doubt, they were slowly being digested.
Yeah,
I think that's smart. The call is smart, right? But it wasn't the people screaming. I think that was a cinematic device to let you know to build the terror, right? Those they're up there. You can hear all 40 of them screaming, right? But I think the real like anglerfish element is because this thing could take any shape it looked like it wanted to. It was taking the shape of a saucer, and it was making people look at it. So it was a hypnotic effect. The most hypnotic shape it could turn into, that got people to stare at it the longest, was a saucer.
Yeah,
that's wild. Very good point.
And so like it's like this thing where like you're looking at the saucer. It formed the shape that got people to be like, oh, is that what I think it is? And then next thing you know, they're sucked up in the digestive system.
You see, I thought it went into the saucer shape because that's what it looks like when it hunts. Almost kind of like when a shark bites into something, like those protective lids come to protect its eyes. That's kind of how it felt to me a little bit, that shape, so it could protect itself while it eats. And then I think that final form to me felt like, oh, I'm safe. I got you. I'm winning this fight. And I'm going to show you my full form, kind of thing. I don't know, but I have a video. I like what you're saying.
I have a video I cut together of I think it's Gary Nolan, and then this video of a cuttlefish hunting like this crab. And the way it does it is it doesn't camouflage itself. It creates these weird banded stripes that strip across the body in this weird, and it hypnotizes the crab. And so now it can approach the crab while doing this weird light display, and the crab just is like, what the fuck is that? And then next thing you know, it shoots out those two long tentacles, and then it's being crunched up by its beak. It doesn't hide. It becomes something that subconsciously, through the psychology and the biology, right, of this creature, it's a code. It breaks the code of the brain of it. And it's like, if there's a creature out there that could change its shape and change its form and change its color, it's going to try to come up with something that really tricks our mind. And so like,
Right.
it was weird. It looked metallic, and then, sorry, but it looked metallic, and then all of a sudden it wasn't. Yeah, so the skin of it.
Well,
There
was that one shot. That one shot where it tilted to the side and you could see the ripples on it. And I was like, that looks like a shark. Like straight up, that looks like a shark.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yep.
Well, and two, I think, the whole silent aspect, like everything again, and I know we're inching towards like the real ufological stuff, which is awesome. The silent nature of it, the disc shape, all that stuff, low to the ground, blah blah blah.
Also just the manipulation of things like animals to block things at the perfect time.
The electricity going out.
The electricity. We'll touch on that next.
Right. The only thing I wanted to piggyback off of Sam there is this idea of everyone who's experiencing this UFO in this movie. Like, who's to say, like you said, this isn't happening all over the world with other quote unquote UFOs, but right now we're only dealing with an amusement park, and we're dealing with people trying to get the money shot. We're dealing with a TMZ reporter trying to get the money shot as well. Everyone looking for this UFO is going to try to see it. So again, looking at it is what is going to get you killed. So I think it's a really interesting commentary on, again, Hollywood. I mean, let's just say it. I feel like this was Jordan Peele's kind of FU to the Hollywood machine, and how we use horse wranglers, how we use horses, how we use crew members. We work them 20 freaking hours a day for half the pay they should be getting, and they're not appreciated. And I do feel like this was a movie where Peele was like, this is an appreciation film to show how important crew members are and what happens when you piss them off. So again, I think everyone in this movie had something to do with Hollywood, and they wanted to use this UFO to gain something, notoriety, money, whatever it was. And this predator was like, hell no, like, you're done using me as bait. Like, you're now the bait and you're gone. So again, I think that was the big thing I took out of it. But the biggest thing was it took the shape of a UFO because it knew people would look at it. What do the four of us do every day? We look up into the sky looking for these things. So I think it was very smart. I think this is a very smart, organic UFO to be like, what would everyone want to look at in the sky? It's the one thing they don't expect to see. They're going to stare at it in awe, and they're going to try to do whatever they can to maybe film it. So, yeah, I think it was genius on the UFO's part.
That's also its weakness, though. That's what they figured out, is that if the animal thinks that you're looking at it, it will eat you, because it ate that horse that was looking up, the statue of that horse, and that horse got caught in like its throat, and it got pissed off and spit it back out at them. And so they're like, oh, they figured out you have to be looking at it for it to kill you.
Yep.
So they set up literally like like a gauntlet for this to come down so they could get the perfect video and picture of this UFO to prove that this thing is real. That's the whole, like, essentially the purpose of the film is for them to get what they call the Oprah shot of this UFO. And so Antler Holst's character, Michael Wincott, is like this old gruffy cinematographer, Quinn, like philosopher, you want the shark? I was catching his, and is like, don't waste my time. But he hung up on them the first time they reached out to them. But then we're able to convince him to come out. And when he does, the first thing he notices when he's on the ranch is that this cloud over the ranch hasn't moved in 45 minutes when all these other clouds are moving around us. So that was another cool thing that I think they pulled from ufology, where these things they've been, reported to hide and sort of pop in and out of these clouds. But I don't know if I've ever heard of one of these things producing a cloud that sits there for 45 minutes. It doesn't move. I mean, Ryan, you're pretty good with history and the lore and stuff. But that, I mean, I don't know if I've ever heard of anybody reporting that these things produce clouds to hide behind.
Honestly, the only thing I can think of is the Chicago O'Hare incident, where it was over the airport for a while and then apparently punched a hole through the cloud and disappeared.
Right.
But a lot of people attribute that to it just being a hole punch cloud, this phenomenon where ice crystals form around a cloud and it looks like a circle. But yeah, dude, I can't think of any UFOs that chill for like half an hour and then, go on the attack. But
you know what it does? It does do though is like, if this creature exists, if there's more of them out there, the type of UFO or craft that it takes, right, the shape would be kind of unique to the animal and unique to its prey, right? Like it would try to elicit a better response or whatever, right? So like now you have like a piece of the puzzle that kind of can fit a lot of other things. Like this could be all the UFO craft, right? It looked like a weather balloon at some point. It looked like those weird nebulous orbs at some point. Like it looked like a lot of stuff. And so this idea, like it was a cool device because it can just fill a lot of slots. Like now when people see a UFO of any kind, they can be like, wait, is this just a sky squid or whatever? Like I think it was smart. It was smart. The other thing I liked was like the chapter, like how it broke down the I didn't expect that at all.
That was cool.
That's
like, and the first chapter was Ghost. So you're like, they mentioned the name of and there I found out later they were all names of the horses. Right. So that was cool. And then I think you kind of like realized were they names of horses that Park had fed to the thing? Because he was buying that scene. I didn't even think about that when he was like, hey, I would like to figure out a way to buy my horses back. And he's like, oh, all right. Well, because he already fed them.
That's not happening. Right. And then I think the last chapter was Jean Jacket, which ended up being the UFO, which I thought was so cool too. But we'll get there. Yeah.
Well, but the thing with this sort of gauntlet that they set up is that, it was I don't know, it was cool, but at the same time, I'm like, God, this animal feels smarter. And so for it to fall and the reason why they have these wavy, inflatable, floaty arms, guys, is because they have eyeballs and they're always looking up. And so the predator's getting confused. There's like, oh, there's eyeballs, which slows it down, I'm assuming, so they could get this Oprah shot.
Oh, interesting. Lou, I didn't take it that way. I took it as, I think Rather's going to say the same thing. They were used to see when the electricity would stop working.
That's interesting. Okay,
yeah.
I thought it was to slow it down.
Yeah,
I mean, I think they were definitely doing that.
The eyes were like looking up, where the guy's like, "Shit, I should cover up the eyes," because it was just this random thing. But that was at this one moment.
I didn't even catch that. Interesting.
I think you guys are right that it was just to determine, like, where this thing was. It was the only way you could detect it.
No, that's true.
But
they
I
definitely used it as,
he didn't seem to be reacting to the eyes at all, which I was surprised by.
Well, but he puts the hoodie up. He puts the hoodie up and it has those two eyes on the back of the hoodie.
Yeah.
So he could get the thing to follow him. I see. This is where, like, I feel like this is one of the parts that wasn't perfected. Like, it wasn't. It's a little inconsistent because there were parts where she's on the motorcycle and she's looking back at it and you figure, okay, well, she looked at it. It must know exactly where she's at because that's how the thing works. But it didn't go after her. That's here's the other thing. I guess if we're gonna sort of talk about some flaws of the film, because that whole end sequence where they try to get, there's a couple things I didn't like. The first was I felt like this film needed a John Williams score. Something to when Jaws is around, you hear the music.
It has like a theme.
It's got a theme. Like the song is the monster. The score for this film didn't grab me that way, and I felt like, oh man, I feel like we're missing. I mean, but how many John Williams are there in the world? There's only one, and I'm pretty sure he's retired. But
They kind of had that with the sound cutting out, though. The electricity cutting out was kind of that, song kind of,
I think
notice that he's around.
The most jarring thing about this thing is that it's silent. Like those first shots where you just see it kind of zipping through the sky and you don't hear anything, that was so unsettling. And I can't imagine being in that desert and like seeing this thing go and not making any noise. But also like that's for the characters in the movie. I understand, Lou, as a viewer and audience member, like it's not like the characters in Jaws were hearing the dun dun.
Right.
So I understand what you're saying, but yeah, that's tough. I almost wanted a theme for it too. Now that you
I think of it like as like when the crew in Jaws was like, all right, we got a plan. Let's kill this motherfucker. And they hit him with the barrels and there's music and you're like, oh, all right, they're going to kill this motherfucker. And then boom, everything flips on them. And then all of a sudden Quinn's getting eaten by the shark, and I think that's the score that went along with that sequence really built up the tension, and I didn't feel a ton of tension in it. I think it's because the score wasn't appropriate to what we were watching. And this is nitpicking, right? Like I'm nitpicking on this, but I feel like if this was my film, I would want that sequence specifically to be really, really scored well, because I think it could build the tension a lot more. And the other couple things I didn't like was that TMZ guy really did not fit this at all. I think it was like they saw it visually. They're like, that's fucking awesome. Let's put that in the movie. How? I don't care. Let's figure it out and put him in there because that looks so cool. I think there was a missed opportunity in this film for there to be a government element to this, a sort of watching aspect from like a Men in Black type of figures, very similar to the guy on the motorcycle. I was like, when I saw the trailer, I'm like, oh, that's got to be like part of the government. Like
they even said Men in Black.
Yeah, like I would have loved to have seen sort of like, at the end of the movie, like someone with a pipe being like, okay, that escalated really quickly, and he's wearing an army jacket with a guy next to him, like, shit, wow, okay. Well, now we know how to sort of maybe kill this thing, like maybe they hadn't figured it out and they were just kind of like, well, let's see what it does. Let's see if anybody else can figure out how to kill this thing.
Like that's sort of the only government reference we got was not even government, but that the TMZ guy's like, why is this area blurred out on Google Maps? Like clearly something weird is going on. And that's when I was like, oh, I like where this is going. I really expected a government involvement twist at the end of this. I really, really did. And I'm kind of happy it didn't, because that would have been too predictable. There was, I kind of liked, I didn't like the TMZ part. I agree with you. I think that entire scene could have been cut out. It looked cool, the mask, or the helmet he had on and shit. But other than that, like it didn't add to the story, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And if you're riding a motorcycle and the electricity goes out, your wheels aren't going to lock up, right? Like that kind of was ridiculous to me.
I was like, I thought he'd roll out, Or
that was weird.
He just comes to a stop.
Yeah,
it's like he hit a force field or something.
Yeah, he hit a force field and just complete. And also just his dialogue post crash was
my camera,
awful.
My phone.
It's like nobody would be saying that. Nobody would be saying, get my phone, get my camera. I don't care how long Ryan Sprague, they've been on that kind of job or gig.
That's not what I was going to say.
In that way, you're not going to be, you don't give a shit about your camera.
I think that is the moment where Jordan Peele has said this is his most comedic of his films. And you do get a sense that literally, nope. Like that's kind of the thing throughout the movie. Nope, not dealing with this. And then I really took that moment as a moment of levity of like, of course this idiot would be saying that right now. And it was really one of the only moments where the comedy really stood out for me, but it was misplaced. And I think that's the problem with trying to mix horror.
I think his part got cut. I bet there's more to it. That's why I would imagine there's a lot on the cutting room floor.
Because the first half was like 3 hours, 45 minutes.
Really about his helmet. Yeah. His helmet says is so that the thing doesn't know he's looking at him. A lot of the stuff he had on him was prepared to look for that thing. He knew what he was looking for, but he probably had not encountered it like physically close enough to like maybe like run up against the electromagnetic force field or whatever it has. But he seemed to know a lot. But then the TMZ thing was just a way to get the person away from him, and then so he can just go in and do the last hurrah. But I bet you there's something on the cutting room floor of like maybe a seaside story where like
that's an excellent point. It does feel like his part got cut big time, and you're right. Like all the equipment that he had on him sort of suggested. I mean, at this point, the secret had to have gotten out because Stephen Yeun's character had been feeding this thing for 6 months, and people had been witnessing this thing for 6 months. Mm-hmm. So it had to have gotten out the story. And so
that was his first show, though. I don't think that he was doing that in public for 6 months. Was my.
Do you think the first show there was his first showing of that animal?
I think so. That's why he was kind of rehearsing it kind of nervously in front of his wife.
Okay, yeah. That makes way more sense.
You're right. He was feeding it for 6 months.
By himself. But this was the first time he was performing it or whatever.
Yeah, because you're right. When we were introduced to this character, his wife was on the phone like TLC or some reality show, being like, "Oh, those press passes just opened up. We're being more than happy to have you." And nobody showed. Yeah. And thankfully, kind of nobody showed, except for his friend who was on the TV show with him in the 80s, who had her face ripped off. Yeah. That's the lady that you see in the trailer. Yeah. But that's not an alien that did that. That's the monkey that did that to her face. So that was okay. That makes so much more sense. Yeah, that's a good point, rather. But it does feel like TMZ. I'm pretty sure Jordan Peele hates paparazzi and TMZ, and this is almost like another mini idea that it feels like another mini idea he had, and it just didn't and I think you're right. I think it got cut, and then it felt just really odd where it was. I was like, this character, I don't care about, and I know I'm not supposed to care. He's a TMZ guy, right? Like he's the lowest that he's supposed to be raised. I mean, his dialogue like
ridiculous.
I was like, it's so over the top.
Lou, can I, since you're on dialogue, can we talk about what was the guy who worked at the Fry's at the Best Price store?
Angel.
Yeah.
So can we talk
Brandon
about
Pereira. And by the way, this is his first film.
I know.
And when he auditioned for this, they didn't have this big a part in mind, and he killed the audition so well that they wrote this part for him.
Love it.
They extended his part. So, from an actor's standpoint, I love when I hear stuff like that.
That's cool.
But yeah, go for it.
Well, he was us. He was our ufologist. I think,
right.
This was the one part of the movie where I think, at least I don't know about you guys, but I was the only one there was only 4 other people in the theater, but I was the only one dying laughing when he said they're called UAP now, and I was like,
yeah.
And then what else does he bring up? Have you seen those Navy UFO videos? Yeah, and that was like, you could tell that was Jordan Peele's moment, nod to the UFO community, and to what is currently going on in the UFO landscape. I mean,
no, I love that
awesome.
he just brushed that in there real quick
too.
What's
OJ
that?
OJ says I've seen them, but they're not that good.
Yeah,
they're not that good. They're not that good. They're not that good. And that's
welcome to our life every day.
Welcome. Yeah, that's our whole existence right there. And the end of the movie, I can't wait to talk about the end of this film, because you just kind of nailed it right there, Sam. But we'll get to it. So was there anything else about the sort of the fight with this beast? I know every time it basically took a dump, all of the metals and all of the things that it consumed while eating, when it eats things,
alien poop once again.
Alien poop. It's your alien poop, rather. So when this thing eats, it kind of consumes the horses or the people with like a tornado of smoke, and it just sucks them right up into his mouth. And then after it's done digesting, it poops out all the non-organic stuff. And that's how we open the film, is all of the quarters, keys, little trinkets of things that it's eaten have all sort of fallen to the ground. And his dad, who's played by Keith David, I was like, damn, they killed Keith David in the first minute of the film. So his dad, who owns the ranch, gets hit with a dime or a quarter, and it kills him. And then that's how, like, we were introduced to Daniel Kaluuya's character. And he's not as charismatic. He doesn't really know how to run the ranch. He knows how to take care of the horses. He knows how to run the day-to-day of the ranch, but he doesn't know how to be the spokesperson, the face. And that's his sister, Keke Palmer, who plays Emerald Haywood, is sort of the I don't want to be here, but I'm here for my brother kind of thing. And she's really good at the showmanship of the business.
She was the standout in this film.
Yeah, she was awesome.
I was blown away.
She was awesome. Somebody had told me that she's the little girl in Akeelah and the Bee.
Oh, wow.
I think Michelle told me that, actually. My girlfriend said that.
Ooh, that's a throwback. Wow.
Yeah, that's a throwback.
Again, like these were...
She was great. Oh, and let's just hit on the acting. The acting was
incredible.
Really good.
Yeah.
Top notch.
Like, really good. Every single part of this was awesome. And to agree with what you were saying, is sort of like the subtext of how to treat people, like, stagehands and art directors and things like that. His hoodie from Scorpion King, and it's not
so cool.
It's a crew hoodie. Yeah. And usually on big films, big television productions, at the end of the year, the crew gets a gift bag, or like a thank you for being on this film, and usually hoodies or shirts from that production. So it'll say Scorpion King production crew, or Star Wars production crew, and you're the only one who gets it. So there are very few of them made. So yeah, it was cool. Like, that was a call out to Hollywood, and Black Hollywood specifically. Like the idea of the very first thing ever put on film was a black man on a horse, for 2 frames. And I thought that was.
And what about that awesome callback that, like, the last action scene? They shooting on a wind up camera
on the wind up camera that's non-electric. Yeah. Okay, so all right, let's talk about Michael Wincott. This character, I felt. And now that Brother said I think you said the first original cut of the film was 3.5 hours long.
Yeah, that's right. Right, 3 hours 45 minutes.
God, maybe, I hope there's a director's cut of this film. Me because too. I have a feeling, like with the TMZ guy, Michael Wincott, that character got cut because he got the money shot. He got the Oprah shot of this animal. And he's like, nah, we don't deserve it. I'm going to go try and get a better shot.
One.
Or is he just sacrificing himself?
He's just sacrificing. I didn't understand that part. And I was so...
Well, I think, Lou, it's any cinematographer or director. Like, they're never going to be 100% satisfied with it.
Of course, but do you throw yourself do you throw yourself in the shark's mouth because you think...
Listen.
He does.
It was golden. It was golden hour. It was golden.
It was gold. I knew that was his whole thing. And look, I think we could say he got the best shot being digested by this thing, right?
Yeah.
You see it.
You see it. Yeah. I mean, like, literally, his film is rolling as part of the film.
It also showed him, like, putting medication into his hand and eating it, and they didn't explain that at all. So I wonder if there was a cut that was maybe he was on his deathbed or something like that.
Yeah,
that was why he did that.
Yeah, I mean, I just wish there was a justification for that character to do that.
Yeah,
because it was so it felt out of character.
Well, Kent says
out of character.
Kent in the chat said he succumbed to the spectacle. I think he's right. I think everyone in this film
certainly did.
This movie was a spectacle. This UFO was a spectacle,
right?
And it feeds off of that. It knows you will look at the spectacle.
Well, I mean, and it's kind of like 24-hour news, right? Like, it's a spectacle. It's something that is drawing your attention, and no matter they're. But I mean, does it get to? I mean, I guess it kind of does get to a spectacle, to a point where people, storm a Capitol building.
Yeah, exactly, man.
Right?
It's all entertainment at this point.
But if that is what you're trying to convey through that character, I think you failed.
That's fair. I understand.
I think there has to be. I mean, even if it's just a couple of lines of dialogue, I have to get a better shot. No, there's like if he gets obsessed with it, or it turns out because it's like the animal is focused on your stare at it, so maybe he picks it up through the lens,
maybe,
and then that's what
he had. Some
what we're looking for is the Independence Day Randy Quaid.
Yeah,
I'm back.
Maybe,
right?
Maybe.
Right?
Because
there's foreshadowing in that movie where you're like, oh, he was actually abducted. He's been ridiculed for years for talking about it. But like the most you get of the cinematographer is that he's like doing some weird reel to reel like editing in a sick ass like LA house, and he's like looking at what looked like a boa constrictor grabbing a tiger, and then both of them being sucked into a bush. So he was already like studying some type of predator that like he was like, he was into cryptids or some shit. So he was like, okay, something's going on.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And I could be wrong, but it was very interesting. Like when he was looking at predator and prey. That's what he was already looking. So he's like, okay. Then
it seems like he identified with the prey.
Right.
Maybe he did. Maybe he did.
I think maybe, or it would have been cool if he had survived some sort of predator attack as a cinematographer.
Oh, like a scar. Give him a scar.
Right. Like maybe that would have been a cool sort of, because
like Quinn.
I wanted him to have his Quinn moment. I wanted him to have his Quinn moment. Because here's the thing. We introduced the Quinn. We're like, what a dick. Right. And then we get on Quinn's boat. And we're like, oh, he's definitely a dick. Like he's yelling at everybody. And then we get drunk with Quinn. And then Quinn tells us his story. And then Quinn, and then
I think that's
Quinn,
what we needed. Yeah.
And the crew bond and they drink and they sing in the boat. And then it gets interrupted by the pounding on the boat because the shark's back.
We needed more of the cinematographers.
And so you ended up loving Quinn because he was like a pirate, essentially, right? With a story, a traumatic, true story that actually happened. The USS Indianapolis, like that's a real story. And so that's an awesome like little nugget there. But so that at the end of the movie, when he's getting destroyed by the thing that he fears the most, it's like you feel terrible for him. And yeah, it was just it's the way to go out. And I feel like this character deserved something along those lines. And I just wanted to know more about him. I think you're right. There's a scene. There's definitely more. I could not take my eyes off of him. And he's also, from the school of Roger Corman, if I'm not mistaken. He's done a lot of Roger Corman films. Actually, I gotta look at his IMDb. Let me make sure I'm saying that right.
I honestly thought that was what's his name? When I saw the posters, I thought it was that dude from, was it Jackass? Dax? Was that his name?
Dax Shepard?
Yeah, I thought that was Dax Shepard.
No.
When I walked by the billboard, I'm like, what the hell? What is he doing in a Jordan Peele movie? But then as soon as he showed up in the movie, I'm like, oh, that is definitely not him. But yeah, such an interesting character. And again, I feel like that sort of predatory nature of Hollywood, it sucks everyone in and spits them back out. And that's the Hollywood machine. Lou, like, that, man. I've been there too. Like, we are the product. And they suck us in and they spit us out when they're done.
Your guys, that's the analogy of the monkey.
Right.
Yes, was like,
exactly.
Of the chimp. Like he was supposed to dance on command. And at some point, like nature took over. Exactly. And it was just this thing where like, no one was prepared to fight off a chimp. They have the strength of like 6 men.
What about
don't have them around?
Yep.
On that same kind of theme of like Hollywood chewing people up and spitting them out, I love the juke when he was talking about his chimp experience as an adult, and he talked about the SNL episode and described that SNL.
Oh my
god,
like
Chris Kattan.
That's just like real life. They really covered it well. And it was just like.
And I love how he almost kind of what's that Bo Burnham sort of little call out of the Rogan podcast where he's like, he was killing just absolutely destroying, like at a time that doesn't exist anymore. Catan was killing it. And it's just so funny because like Catan is like not one of the best SNL guys.
You know what I mean?
It was so funny.
Sam hit on it. Yeah.
He was retelling a story that he had seen his young kid crush get her face ripped off. Multiple people who might have been his parental figures on set and stuff like that literally get murdered by this chimp. And he's like he's telling the story via a SNL sketch. And he's like, they
so
really
sad.
And then like you cut to this like scene of him as a kid, like just looking at this horror, and then cut back to him and you realize, oh, he's masking. Like he's completely masking this crazy fascination he has with this traumatic moment of being obsessed with this like point where nature took over. And he didn't know what happened.
Yeah,
he's taken the traumatic moment and has tried to make a career off it.
Right, and I think the most important thing with trauma, I personally feel, is to accept it and build from it and learn from it, and you become a stronger person. You overcome some of the trauma, probably never all of it, and kind of once you accept it, it empowers you and you become the person you want to be. And I feel like with him, like, you're right, I think he took this traumatic experience as a kid and said, I'm not going to let this stop my dreams of being in show business. I'm going to use it. And again, like, I don't think it worked out too well for him in the end, but I think you're right, man. I think, he could only associate with this traumatic event through an SNL sketch. That's the only way he could retell the story.
Well, clearly he hasn't dealt with it properly, right?
He hasn't dealt with it properly. And again, I think that's the problem with all these child actors. You hear all these horrible stories.
But you want to know something else, Ryan? That's also true of UFO experiencers. A lot of them have not dealt with the trauma
so true
of their experience. In the right way.
Yep. And someone will be there to take advantage of them.
Right.
And show them the way and show them, I can put you on TV to tell your story. And then what happens? They go on TV and they're made a spectacle of, they're made a joke of. And again, I feel like that's what a lot of this film is again, using people's trauma and experiences to exploit it. I mean, at the end of the day, like Kiki and her brother, like it's a great story. It was a beautiful, story between a brother and sister and this and that. But their sole purpose wasn't to prove aliens exist. It was to make money off of this to keep the ranch. And that's a very human way to go about it. I understand why they would want to do that. But again, it's for personal gain. And I think that's the problem with everyone in this film. They were using every animal to gain something until the animals finally fought back.
That's interesting. I mean, one thing I was really hung up on was the trauma element. I mean, I've talked to a lot of experiencers in the last 4 or 5 months, and something that I didn't expect to find was that a traumatic experience of some kind, a big move, divorce, birth of a child, these things trigger a lot of these experiences. These are things that happen right before someone sees something or they have an experience. I mean, it's just part of the lore. Once you talk to real people who had this stuff, so that's when I was really paying attention, because it seemed like Peele really knew the lore. He knew a lot of it. And he was making statements about it, meta style statements about certain stuff. And I just felt like he must have known about this trauma thing by including it literally as the opening scene. The most traumatic event of this guy who ended up being the guy who attracted this predator, right? There seems to be a little bit of he's making a statement about it, if not a direct narrative connection. There's something there. I'd like to see that 3.5 hour cut too.
Oh God,
I would kill to see that 3.5 hour cut. I really do. I really hope Universal puts it out, because I think this is the more I thought about it, and I think it's funny that you came right out of the movie and put it at number 1. But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, damn. And I don't do this a lot with movies where I'm like, I kind of want to go back and watch it again.
Me too. Yeah.
Just to see maybe what I missed. But It's funny that you say that, Sam, because there was a good, I'd say, rather 4 to 6 months where we really tried to sort of talk to experiencers and try to get there and not make a spectacle, but try to get a better understanding of what's going on, but still be able to poke around and ask questions. And the thing that I noticed, and it's funny that you said that, was the exact same thing you did, was there, not in every case, someone would say this, but there was always something insanely traumatic that happened to that person, whether it was an illness to them or their family, whether it was a death, whether it was something they saw that absolutely would cause insane trauma to the human psyche. And then that's when they started coming around. And I'm like, to me, my rational thinking goes, the experiences that they're having is masking the trauma that they've buried, and they haven't addressed it properly. And that's why they're manifesting these traumatic experiences that implant themselves on the human mind as very visceral and very real. And so when they access it, that's how it comes out. But it's not the trauma of the aliens abducting them. It's the trauma of losing a child.
Yeah.
That's actually coming through that.
Can I speak on that, Lou?
Please, yeah.
Okay. And I'll make it brief. I'm known.
No, don't make it brief. We got plenty of time.
I'm known for dealing with experiencers. That's my ufology. That's what I've been doing for years. And you're right. A large portion of these experiencers who come to me personally, I feel, and this is my subjective opinion, that a lot of them are masking something traumatic that happened to them. And whether that's an abduction experience or even like a poltergeist experience. We hear that too. A lot of poltergeist activity occurs when, maybe someone's going through puberty or they're dealing with a very traumatic life change. This is where these paranormal phenomena feed off of that. Exactly.
Yeah.
Sam.
It can be as simple as a move. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Something that is a paradigm shifting moment. Yep. And I don't want any experiencers watching this or hearing me say all abductions are right. That's clearly not the case. I think we're dealing with a lot of different extenuating circumstances with the abduction phenomenon and paranormal phenomenon. But I think you're right. I think kind of this UFO outer shell of this movie, Nope, is, again, it's like any sci-fi movie. There's kind of this overarching theme, and there's so much layers to that onion that they're trying to tell. And for me, this was a story of a brother and sister reconnecting. That's the biggest thing I took out of this, of all things. And also the Hollywood machine and how Jordan Peele is dealing with it as his career grows, and also how exploitative that Hollywood can be in terms of telling stories of people who say they were abducted by aliens. I get asked.
I think you're right on a lot of that. Like,
once a month,
there's direct
Sam,
lines, especially with the Hollywood stuff too.
Yes,
yeah, well, I think
once a month I get a call from a Hollywood production company, and they're like, "We found you online. We see that you wrote a book about experiencers. Can we talk to them?" And usually I'm like, "Well, I can't just like give you their information. Like, there needs to be a trust built there." And I've made the mistake of giving contact information of experiencers to some people in Hollywood. And it doesn't turn out pretty. And some of these people were made fools on television. And I feel absolutely horrible about that.
But tell me how you feel about this. Like the idea of like, I think the way you guys are looking at it is very Freudian. And I think that there's a Jungian way to look at it, where there's the observations I think you're making are correct. That the connection there is that, like, there is a connection, right? There's something there with trauma and then these events. But the way I look at it is like, you could say reductionist. That must mean that we're just creating this stuff in our minds or something. But I actually think that and I think what might be implied in the movies as well is that there must be a connection between the human consciousness of looking at this thing. This thing knows when it's being looked at, but there's no visible eyes on it. So how does it know that? It also is able to project a electromagnetic field so powerful it shuts down stuff, right? So that's an interesting thing. So electromagnetics and brainwaves, they have a thing to them. You know, the idea of it knowing when you're looking at it seems to be something too. So I'm just saying there could be something out there that, like, when you go through a traumatic event, and there could be a biological effect with people when you go through a traumatic event that could cause something to take notice of you, a type of predator, a type of other thing that's out there. It just could do, you know, the effects of trauma aren't just all in our minds. There must be something that affects, you know, the universe as well. And from what I can see, because like there are a lot of cases where I think you could say, oh, this person must have hallucinated this whole damn thing. And I think to an extent for sure, but then you have like evidence of stuff where, like, I'm not going to say that it proves that there's UFOs out there doing stuff to people's minds, but I think it is interesting that it kind of implies that maybe a connection between people's minds and the physical world in a way that's like, dude, are we causing some of this stuff? Like, could we be concentrating on something so strongly that it pings a radar device? We don't know. Like,
Sam,
and then
the co-creation hypothesis. Look that up.
Yeah,
man.
that's a good way to put it.
You hit the nail on the head, brother. Greg Bishop, a UFO researcher, kind of coined this term where it's a dance between us and the phenomenon. The observer brings something to it, and so does the phenomenon, and we work off of each other. Again, I'm not saying that's what's happening, but I find it fascinating, and I'm so happy you brought that up.
Yeah. And yeah,
yeah, it's fun.
Totally,
I don't know if that's
it is fun,
but I think that is I think that is the difference, you know.
And I agree with that sort of that theory, right? Like, it's very Freudian. That obviously that's the first place the mind goes, right? But I think there's also an aspect to it where that just doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. You know, there is no traumatic experience that goes to it. Like, David Fravor didn't have a traumatic experience before he saw his thing. You know, neither did Alex Dietrich.
Well, we don't know. We don't know.
Well, we don't know that. But I mean, the odds of two pilots, you know,
who may have killed people.
Although
I'm just playing devil's advocate.
No, I'm playing devil's advocate. But I'm saying the odds,
right? Being a pilot can be stressful.
The odds
I think you're right.
Pilots, you know, having traumatic experiences flying planes at the exact same time and seeing the exact same thing is very, very slim.
Yeah. Right.
But I also think one of the themes here, and God, I should have invited Kent by to the
I know,
I had no idea. He's killing it. But yeah, it's a spectacle. And that's what Jordan Peele said, right? Like, this film's main theme is can't take the eyes off the car crash. We can't take the eyes off of the Paris Hiltons or the Kim Kardashians or the president, you know, whoever it may be. And it's a spectacle. It's a show. And that's what it's just a show. And beneath the show, there's actually real shit that needs to get done and paid attention to. But like, it's so odd to me, and I don't know how much trouble I'm going to get into for saying this, but to me, like, as an American, and I'm just focusing on this country, as an American, sort of something weird that I've noticed is Sarah McLachlan will lend her music for a commercial that saves animals on the verge of being destroyed, right? Which is sad, and that's terrible, and I don't want animals to die. But at the same time, completely ignore children in this country that are hungry and need a home.
Yeah. Just
as much as a dog, you know. But for some reason, we're
maybe more than a dog.
but the dog is cute. The dog is a spectacle. Right? It's like, we have to save the animals. That's the spectacle. Well, don't we have to save the kids too? Like, the ones that are alive, that are living in cars, or don't get lunch when they go to school.
Right. That's a good commentary too, Lou, on like all this money. And I don't have a stance on this, but you know, we're giving all this money to Ukraine to fight Russia, and so many Americans are like, but like, what about all the Americans? right now who are suffering, you know? So
Yeah.
the same argument could be made.
Well,
Again, I'm not saying that's right or
60%,
wrong.
well,
but
forget about let's just take Ukraine out of it. 60% of our budget goes to the military industrial complex and war and
Right.
and defense. 60%.
It's a gang.
More than
It's a
it's
gang
actually
of
more than
money.
60. So more than 60%.
Let's be
I
honest.
believe it's actually
Let's-
66% of our money,
Even-
our tax
just
dollars.
even it off.
Yeah.
70. Just 70.
I mean,
am
you know,
I
I
boring,
think
guys, I'm sorry.
yeah, yeah, a little bit. It's all
I
right.
just had too
You're
much
good.
beer. Okay.
Yeah. You know, like I don't know, man. I feel like that war is a spectacle. It's something that
sure.
for a short time,
Ever since
depending on the
Vietnam, yeah.
situation. Oh yeah, well, ever
When
since
we
we
first got our
first
cameras
televised
in there.
war. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's been
And
just another form of entertainment. And
yeah, exactly. But it's also a
Sad.
revenue stream, a big revenue stream.
yeah,
You know, it green lights new toys. It expands the NDAA
good point.
by billions every year. Every year, the NDAA gets bigger, no matter who the president is.
It gets UFO programs
yeah,
reinstalled into the government.
Here I am complaining about government spending, and I'm like, please open some more UFO.
How
offices.
ironic, I know.
You know, but at the same time, I don't know. Well, yeah, I don't want to get political, but like it's a spectacle. It's the magician, right? Pay attention to this hand while I'm doing something else with the other.
Mhm.
And yeah, you know, and I think that theme smacks you right in the face with this film. But I'm curious, what else in the film did you guys like or dislike? Rather, what do you got?
Well, did any of you get any Skinwalker Ranch vibes from the film? I
Yes.
thought that was kind of an interesting,
God, dude.
out there in the ranch and like, yeah,
One of
maybe
the,
whatever
when
is
that
happening
mantis-
out there is biological.
When they set up the camera systems, yes.
That was the exact moment I thought
Yes.
of Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah.
I
So I'm
think
like,
so.
You should be putting cameras all over the ranch, and that's what everyone was screaming at Brandon Fugel during.
Yeah,
the
Yeah,
first
get yourself an
season.
angel and set that stuff
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. But
Well,
also
Fugel tweeted that out today. Did you see that? There was an
no.
article, a big article that came out today that said, is anyone making a connection between Nope and Skinwalker Ranch? And of course, Brandon Fugel retweeted it as
Yeah.
like any good marketer would. And I'm like, okay, finally, I'm not the only one thinking that. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, although I didn't feel. I mean, but the ranch wasn't like alive.
Well, but it is kind of like making a spectacle of the phenomenon at the ranch,
For
though,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
For sure. Well, especially
And,
at
maybe that's bad. Maybe that's what the
Claim, right?
hitchhiker
Or-
effect is.
Interesting. Yeah.
I mean, that could be that. Yeah,
Where
makes-
can I ask? Where did this take place? Was this like in California somewhere?
definitely
like
California,
Mojave or something.
Yeah,
kinda?
I'm thinking like northern,
outside of Hollywood.
Okay.
definitely
I
outside of
found it
Hollywood.
interesting
Hour,
that
you know,
I found it interesting. It was called like Agua Dulce or Aqua Dulce. Dulce
Dulce.
is supposedly the place where that underground alien base is.
Oh yeah.
And then you got
Fries.
the Aguadilla.
Aguadilla, Fry's even. I know that was an actual electronics store, but also Fry, like Daniel Fry is one of the biggest, I think it was Daniel Fry, one of the most famous contactees as well. So I was like, whoa, did Peele really dig that deep? I don't think he did in terms of the contactee thing.
Well,
but
let me ask
definitely
you guys
Dulce.
this:
Definitely Dulce.
is Fry's still a thing?
Not anymore, I don't think.
Like,
It was.
I think it's struggling. I think it's still in business, but maybe struggling. I could be wrong about that.
But their like original, what do you call it? Like location had a big UFO out front, like in real life. So I thought that was pretty cool. That was clearly why he chose Fry's, I would assume. Yeah, is it still running, Lou?
It says
I could
Fry's
see you Googling.
Electronics. Yeah, Fry's Electronics was an American big box store chain, headquarters in San Jose, California, Silicon Valley. Fry's retail software, consumer electronics, household, blah 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 blah. CEO 1985. It doesn't ceased operations February 24, 2021.
Oh wow.
Whew.
That's right.
Damn. Talk about terrible
held on.
timing for kind of like free promotional. like, oh man, they just missed it.
That's
They
why
just missed
the
it.
trademark was up. So Peele was like, I'm getting that.
Dude, if like
for right, that kind of
Fry's
makes
wants
sense.
to put out like a last minute like line of UFO like hunter like cameras
my
and
God,
stuff, they would
yeah.
make a killing.
They could reopen. I know. Let's not get into UAP trademarks. That's a conversation. for another
That's a
time.
whole different.
That's a whole nother box of worms there.
God.
To be
Can
continued.
Can Saucerco sue Jordan Peele for using UAP in the film?
No, because it wasn't on
right?
apparel.
Because it wasn't on apparel, right?
I'm glad we can laugh about it.
Peele better watch himself though.
Yeah.
That's true.
Very litigious. It seems like that.
What else? What else about this film did we not touch on? So here's one of the themes, right? Is let's talk about the ending, I guess. One of the themes was you can't control nature, right?
Mm-hmm.
That to me is what one of the themes was. But then at the end of the movie, we controlled nature. Like we beat it, right? Like so Kiki's character at the end of the film to kill this monster. And this was also kind of like, I understand like plans in movies always fall apart, but then this like impromptu plan of putting this balloon with it almost looked like a Burger Bob balloon or something. It was like a Macy's Day Parade size balloon that they sent into the sky, and the monster takes its gaze off of Kiki's character and immediately focuses on this huge balloon that's got a winky eye, and the animal shows itself in its truest form. And I wonder if that unveiling of itself was almost like a snake unlocking its jaw, because it looked at the size of this one and goes, "Whoa, okay, we're gonna have to
let's do this.
Open this thing up." So maybe kind of it really got big that point, but I loved like just the imagination and organic feel of this predator, jean jacket, as they called it in the film. That's the name of the predator. And Kent By also hit on this. Kurt Muggles here. What's up, Kurt?
What's up, Kurt?
I gotta go. Just wanted to say hello to Lou Rather and Tupac.
What's up, Kurt?
Yo, I can't believe it. What's up, dude? That's so cool that you're here.
I didn't make the cut.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't make. I'm sure he met. I
love you, Kurt.
Sure
I'm a big fan.
I'll put Ryan in there. I'm sure he did not meet him.
No, stop.
You're a
huge fan of
Kurt.
Mungle.
Okay, I'm kidding.
Huge fan. But Luke, that brings up a good point. Like the animation of the craft, right? Was so good that before OJ made the declaration, like this is something different. I got that impression. Like when it swooped down, like really, I think it was when he was revisiting the ranch or the event where everyone got taken, where this thing comes in so fast and does this weird. I was like, man, kudos on the animation, because it looked so like a squid. It looked like something just diving in, and it didn't give me the impression of a craft at all. But it had some of those observables, this like instantaneous acceleration and all this stuff. It just seemed like something moving on a scale that we had not seen before, a natural object. And it was just
sorry, Ryan.
We can all bounce to Ryan.
Yeah,
hearing my name come out of
dude,
Kurt's...
we got to get you guys a meet. We got to get Kurt on the show. We'd love to just hang out with Kurt and talk.
That'd be great.
That'd be awesome. And just pick his brain, because man, I'm curious to know, like, after everyone he's talked to, sort of what his thoughts are on this topic. But anyway, we'll get there. But dude, thank you so much for being here. You seem the coolest. Oh, now you're just being a jerk. Now you're just being a jerk. Get the hell out of here, man.
That's good.
That's it for me, guys. Good night. I am out of here.
Awesome. Sparky Lady Melinda Leslie's here. She said she just saw it.
Oh,
Melinda must be freaking out about this film. I cannot imagine how excited she is about this movie.
How many of the observables did this hit? I'm interested now that Sam brought that up.
Yeah, now that Sam brought that up, I feel like, man, other than the
instant acceleration,
the speed,
low observability,
observability,
transmedium. We never hit space or water.
But it would you say it
outer atmosphere maybe?
Do you think it hit a sonic boom speed without creating a sonic boom?
Yeah, I think so.
Something that big, moving that fast. Just because we were looking at it on a weird scale that looked like an animal moving across the coral or something. It was like, it looked normal, but in reality, it was cruising like over those hills at a speed with that mass, it would have caused so many issues. Like,
yeah, no, that one scene where it swooped, like it literally went whoop right over the mountain. I was like, oh, that's cool.
That was cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Like I can tell you the darting around of it was, I mean, like I felt like he nailed that. He nailed that. And I keep thinking of that scene where the ship turns on its side.
That's cool.
And you see like it almost looks like a shark's underbelly of the gills or something, like how the skin just kind of ripples across the only you know, across the gills, and I think the only bones in a shark are it's literally its jaw, like the teeth. It's pure cartilage, but how the
first
skin
time
moves.
you saw that it wasn't solid. And
right. Yeah.
He, you know, like people say that there's some type of skin on these craft. Some people's, you know, like some kind of membrane or something there. So I saw it, I was like, oh, that's cool. He threw that in. I didn't expect it to completely unravel and become like a whole other thing. But it was
could we say it was a different type of propulsion? Kind of like what Ken's saying here. Anti-gravity lift is sort of one of the observables.
Pulling instead of pushing out. Yeah.
I mean, there was no
think about it.
There was
it
no
could
propulsion,
control,
right?
It had electromagnetic visible. It had an electromagnetic field, so that must mean it could have been using field technology or field whatever manipulation, natural to move about that way it was. I mean, also when it starts to change form, you realize that it wasn't a solid metal craft, which is just what it looked like on the outside. It becomes this weird thing where you're like, oh, this is just the skin. Like, this is something different. Like,
when it's way more fragile than it appears,
it was just like a balloon, essentially.
Yeah. Within a balloon took it out. Yeah.
Interesting point. Yeah.
And Kent By hits another interesting point.
Yeah.
God, we should have just Kent, really. Next time we do a film like this, you're in, man. But he said the balloon popping triggered the chimp in the balloon is what undid the jean jacket UFO. And he's right. You know, genius. Like that's the balloon popping is what set the monkey off, and then the balloon popping is what eventually. And again, call back to Jaws. Like they blew it up with something like it wasn't a canister, but the balloon is kind of like a canister, and it exploded. I thought that was so cool, man. I was like, I think a lot of people will think that is anticlimactic. I thought it was awesome.
Well, two questions.
There's got to be some.
Yeah.
Two questions. Did it actually die? And we don't know because the film ends. So that's left up to interpretation. Did it actually die, or what happened to it? And then two, like, what was the second thing I was going to say? Oh, the Kiki got the shot, apparently. I'm sure we'll get there. She got the Oprah shot. So now what? Like, aliens exist? Like, what does that accomplish? I know that's what the goal was for the whole movie, was to get the shot. But now what? Like, just like any clear, good UFO photo, someone's going to be like, fake, CGI.
Yeah.
Which is the most frustrating part. No matter how good the shot is, it's never going to be good enough for everyone.
Well, that's what I was gonna sort of end this conversation.
Sorry, I did it again.
No, that's fine. We're getting close to it anyway. Kurt says, don't mean to keep interrupting. You guys are a merry reprieve to my insomnia. It would be fun to jump on with you all. Thought I don't have many coherent thoughts on this subject.
He just had a great interview. I would have to disagree. And Chris Lato. He has a lot of.
He keeps saying stuff like that, Kurt, but you're so wrong, man. You're so wrong. Like, you think your thoughts are incoherent on this, but they're really just well thought out, and they're beautiful to listen to. I wish Kurt Jimenez will start writing films again, because I think he'd be a killer filmmaker. We talked about this when he was on Michael's channel. But yeah, dude, you're awesome, dude. Don't you're so awesome. Like, come on, you're the man. Don't say stuff like that. But here's a good Nope 2. I think this could easily get a sequel.
Oh yeah, and I mean, look at how many Jaws there were.
Right.
Or as family guy would say, even bigger Jaws. Just as long as it doesn't, get kooky like Jaws 3D. Like I don't want this thing at SeaWorld. I don't want a sequel. I don't want it to be Jurassic Park. I think
like what ends up happening with flicks like this when they do a sequel is like, we got to go bigger, we got to go better. It's just like, nah, you don't, man. Keep it simple.
Yeah.
Like, how much better would a Jurassic Park be if it was a story of how the dinosaurs got out, but instead of telling what the dinosaurs are doing everywhere, you just focus on one guy in a house in the woods and one velociraptor.
Yeah.
You know, like, and how he fights this velociraptor. That would be way more interesting, a lot smaller of a budget. And I feel like it would, I don't know, man. Like,
I think it would go against everything that Jordan Peele tried to say in this movie.
Yeah, I don't think he would do a sequel. That's for sure. It would have to be like Spielberg didn't direct the sequel to Jaws.
Exactly.
He almost did. He was close, but they, you know, it's like, man, I don't know. There's only there's only two movies I think that outdid its original film with the sequel, and that's The Godfather 2 and Return of the Jedi.
Empire, you mean?
Yeah, or Empire Strikes Back. Excuse me. Yeah, Empire Strikes Back.
Sorry.
But no, don't be sorry. That's fine. But what do you? Sam, what do you think about a sequel to this film? You're muted.
No way.
Nope. There you go. Yeah.
I don't think.
Nope. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think I want a sequel either.
No.
It's so standalone. You know what I mean?
You know what I do want though? I want that extended cut.
Yeah.
I really want that extended cut. And I was also thinking about this today, and I'll move on to you rather to see if you'd want a sequel with this. But I'll also add another question on this. Is this the best film about UFOs ever made? Interacting with humans. Does this beat Close Encounters of the Third Kind, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'd say no on that. You know, I think it was very, very interesting, but it almost wasn't, the UFO aspect was almost a little bit, you know, not the main point. I think there was, you know, some social commentary of the whole spectacle and that stuff. Arrival is still my favorite, you know, go-to, you know, humans interacting with a new alien life force movie.
That's a great one. That's a great one. Yeah, no, that's a great one. Okay, so then your list is Arrival, Close Encounters, Nope.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd have to do a exhaustive search of the UFO cinematography universe.
10 right now. Give me your top 10 UFO films. I'm putting this one up there. Although when I started thinking about it, and I know Ryan, you've seen this movie, but there's a killer movie on Amazon called The Vast of Night.
Oh,
and there's only one scene in that movie that I think takes it out of the conversation as far as does it fit with these three films we just named. Because I think The Vast of Night is really
watch
good.
It. Everyone go to Amazon and watch it.
Really good UFO movie. I cannot talk about it enough. This movie to me was like, I don't know which one I enjoyed more. Really had a tough time. And the only reason why I think I lean toward Nope is because The Vast of Night clearly did not have the budget of Nope. And so I think if you could take a couple of actors in Vast of Night and replace them with some really seasoned actors, that movie's a better flick. I really do. I really like that movie. But yeah, it was a lot lower budget.
They're different. I feel Vast of Night is a UFO movie. I feel like Nope, like Rather said, still it's not a UFO movie. It has UFOs.
You don't consider it a UFO movie?
I don't. And I know a lot of people in the chat were like, all right, rate it as a movie and then rate it as a UFO movie. I don't really see it as a UFO movie. I feel like the beauty of science fiction is that, you know, it's not one thing. And there's so much layers to science fiction, and that's why I think they are the most powerful sorts of ways to tell stories. I don't see it. I feel like this was Jordan Peele's commentary on where Hollywood is, where it was, where it is, and where it's going. And he's even said in interviews, like, a movie like Nope, you're not going to see it in 5 years. We are headed so deeply into the Marvel universe and the franchise universe that in 5 years you will not see an ambitious film like this. You won't.
I would say I don't think it was necessarily a UFO, or I think it was kind of a UFO movie, but it wasn't an alien movie, which I think is kind of a weird distinction.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's not as far as
maybe it's alien. But
the only thing that when I watched with my girlfriend, she was like, well, it had electronic, like it would mess with the electronics, so it has to be alien, right? It's got to be like a kind of like a machine. And I'm like, well, no, what about jellyfish? What about eels?
Totally.
Yeah, maybe it's a biological thing that's doing nuclear fusion inside of it, right?
I understand why she would think that. Yeah. But yeah, I think a lot of things could definitely. I thought it was so cool. I just took it as like outer atmosphere creatures that have been there all along. Invisible residents. That was the name of Ivan T. Sanderson's book on biological UFOs. So there you go. Like these things have been living in the clouds, and that's terrifying. Because it's not something I ever thought about. I look out at clouds. I'm like, oh, that kind of looks like a hamburger. And now I'm like, holy shit, this thing could kill me. And that's terrifying.
Eventide has a great comment. It says it's silly, but Explorers has a great plot. I loved that movie when I was a kid. I just watched that a couple months ago. It still holds up. Great flick. Great flick. So good. I feel like that you could remake that movie and it'd still be really good. I know a lot of people hate remakes, but I feel like that movie and They Live are just ripe for remake. I would love to remake They Live. I've heard it's in the works, but that would be a killer flick. This is awesome. Cosmic Kev, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Fire in the Sky, and Nope. Not a bad list. Sparky Lady in there with Cloverfield, which was okay. Here's Flight of the Navigator.
Ooh.
Absolutely awesome flick. That's another one I watched a couple months ago. That one really holds up. And this is another film I would kill to remake. And it's also an awesome time travel story.
Yep.
Which is kind of, it doesn't get that. I feel like Flight of the Navigator's time travel story is as flushed out and as good as Terminator, as The Arrival, sure, or even I was gonna say Back to the Future. Like the time travel in this is really good. And yeah, so excellent. Two very good suggestions there, Eventide.
Agreed.
Melinda Leslie says, I want the three of them on Oprah showing the footage in the extended cut. That would be awesome. Holy shit. Melinda. How great of an ending credits would that have been? All three of them on Oprah, like, and they made it. You know.
Well, here's my question, Lou. Here's my question.
Really good.
Yeah.
All three of them. I gotta ask you guys. What was Daniel's character name?
Daniel's OJ. Yeah, Run OJ, which I thought was
hilarious. Did OJ survive? I don't think he did. I'm just gonna. I don't think he survived that.
Oh, you think that was her just seeing him at the end?
Yeah. I don't think he survived that.
There's enough cinematic
there was a sign over him
mechanisms,
from the
right? It was said over yonder.
So and that to me,
he's
in the cinematic kind of like hero pose he had.
And
what does Ken By say?
When the creature starts to do that, the creature does this display, right? It's this green square display. And when he does it to OJ, you don't know what the fuck that's about. But then, sorry for my language. But then you get to when it attacks like the big inflatable thing, and you see like, oh, that's what it does right before it eats this stuff. So then it's like there's no doubt in my mind that it ate OJ right before it turned to chase.
Agreed.
You know what I mean? Kiki, like there was just no doubt in my mind at that point.
The look on Kiki, she killed it in those final moments. You don't know. Is she actually seeing him, or is that what she wants to see? I love the ambiguity of the end. I was pissed that it ended because I didn't want it to end.
Oh, same. But people were sitting in the theater waiting for it to for more stuff.
Me too. And my girlfriend's like, is there an after credit scene? I'm like, there can't be. That's not George.
There
Styles.
Was kind of. So I stayed through the credits, and it's not a scene, but it was an ad for Jupiter's whatever.
Jupiter's Claim.
It was
the
apparently Universal Studios right now. You can go and see Jupiter's Claim. You can go for a set tour. So I think again that was kind of an ironic nod to like, come see Jupiter's Claim at Universal Studios, and you literally can. I looked it up. You can get tickets to go see Jupiter's Claim. So not an after credit scene, but I think a last.
They
final,
probably.
like,
I bet they have that
exploitative
on the
Hollywood.
Universal backlot somewhere.
It is. It's part of the backlot tour. Yeah, which I
Wow,
thought was
that's funny,
hilarious. Because again, I wanted to see if they were gonna MCU this and do some sort of like, to be continued. But instead, it was an ad for Jupiter's Claim, which was hilarious.
You know, when you're taking that tour, the Universal Studios tour, and you're in the Jaws part, you can look up and see the Hitchcock house from.
Yeah, you want to hear a fun story?
Like, when we're talking about this, like Hitchcock and like the house when the blood got rained down on it, and the gray craft and the shark. You know what I mean? The minimalistic ways you see this craft before, just like how they had to start using. The editor had to save Jaws essentially by cutting out the animatronic shark, so you only see the fin at first. That's very interesting. Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
funny. I did a TV show there called what was it called? I don't know. It got canceled after the first season, but I did an episode. He called Jupiter's Claim. I did an episode there, and it was right. There's another block that is. I don't think it's the Hitchcock house. It's the house from A Little Whorehouse in Texas. Okay. And it goes around, and then there's another block that goes down, and the Hitchcock house is around there, but I'm pretty sure it's not that one. Because the Hitchcock house has an actual guy with a knife that looks like Norman Bates sitting out front of that comes and runs to the thing. And I got to walk down past that house, and I sat right there on the stairs and just watched the tour for the Jaws ride. All the tour bus come through and do the whole thing. It was pretty cool.
That's cool.
So I got to see how it sets back up and everything go back into its place. It was really cool. Okay, so here's what I wanted to talk about at the end of this flick. So I think, and by the way, Kent Bai says that he read that he was alive at the end of the movie. And that he's sitting straight up on the horse, but in the misty dust.
It was a very Clint Eastwood
ambiguous,
moment.
but
yeah. Which I thought again was a tie back to this was a Hollywood movie. It was a blockbuster, a summer movie. I think that's what Peele was going for. That's why it was released in freaking July. And this was his nod to Hollywood, in my opinion. So of course you're gonna have the hero on the horse at the end. But also, again, to me, I think that's what Kiki wanted to see.
Also, OJ got away with it.
Ooh, nice.
So maybe he got away with not getting killed. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. But I think it's kind of ambiguous. I'm curious to know. I mean, Kent said he read it, but I'm wondering if Jordan has confirmed that if in fact that OJ's character actually made it at the end. But let's talk about the end. So, and I thought this was kind of like they foreshadowed that. So in this Jupiter's Claim, there's a well that you could put quarters in, and at the bottom of the well, there's an old timey camera, and you're supposed to look down the bottom of the well, and then the picture is from at the bottom of the well, looking up at you, looking down into the well. So they foreshadowed that somewhere, I'd say about 45 minutes into the movie, and then at the end of the movie, that's the camera system that captures the UFO in flight consuming this balloon. My question to you guys is, I was like, what would this show do with that camera? Right? Like, what would this show say about those photos? Would we be like, I don't know, like, the camera's really old, it's in a well, like, how do we know it's not a camera glitch or defect? And when somebody would say, well, there was a sequential number of pictures, right? Like, the first two pictures are blank, and then the third picture's got the thing. And then we'd be like, yeah, but what about the fourth picture? Where's the fourth picture? Like, we don't have a fourth picture? Sorry.
Well, yeah, it could just be a giant inflatable, right? crazy
just a
inflatable.
giant inflatable, like, right? I feel like the Oprah shot that they got isn't proof. Like, I don't think it would be considered proof.
It can. No, the perfect shot doesn't exist, and that's what kind of, I understand. Like, Kiki felt like this was it. I did it, but I don't see it going that way. I think this is a tragedy. If you were looking at it Shakespearean, like, we went in thinking it was a comedy, but at the end of the day, I think Kiki lost her brother. Personally, I feel like OJ died. A lot of fucked up shit happened, and she got the shot, but I don't think it's going to be enough for the world to be like, yay, aliens exist. Here's a ton of money. Saved your ranch. You're going to be a famous actress now or whatever. No, if there was a sequel to this movie, I think it'd be very depressing.
Well, I don't think the single photo would have done it. The single photo, I don't think was proves anything. But there was a lot of other physical evidence that happened there, right? Like the blood-soaked house, like the keys and the nickels dropping down, and the 40 people whoever disappeared.
Supposedly the dead
missing
UFO,
the missing cinematographer who was probably union.
Definitely. You're working a non-union gig, which means you probably would have gotten in trouble.
Insurance is going to be all over. Here's the thing.
I think just the photos by themselves, it's not proof, right? Like, we'd all be like, oh, they're great. It's definitely weird, but it's not proof. But what Rather said, I think, is key, right? Like, this blood-soaked house, like, you can take DNA samples from the house. You can look at all the things and run metal detectors on that property and find probably licensed wallets, personal belongings to the people that belonged in that group.
But does that prove extraterrestrials exist?
No, but I mean, it
just proves a bunch of people died.
It suggests that the photo might be of something real.
Okay,
correct. And also with the witness testimony that you got, but also I think those 2 cans of film survive.
Oh, that's good point.
But you saw 1 can of film trickle down and roll out, right? And when he fell down the hill, when the kid fell down the hill, after what's his name got eaten after he killed, like, literally put himself out there as bait, that film canister got consumed by the animal, but the animal spits that stuff out.
Right.
Its digestive system doesn't seem to destroy those things. It just literally spits them out as it consumes them. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the license plate in Jaws when they open the belly and they're like,
that's
he's
great.
Like throwing out, the non-organic things, the metal things that sharks just eat.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think if those 2 film canisters survive, especially the handheld one, like, you can't fake that on that camera system.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, what would we do with this story? And I think if we got all of those pieces, we would all be like, oh my God, this is the best thing in the whole world. This is it. This is the case, right?
And then Mick West would tweet, you're done.
Think about it as an experiencer story. Like, if you just had Kiki pop into a space or explain something on a thing, and she was like, here's what happened. I would interpret it, right, as like, well, so your dad died and then you lost your farm due to some bad business dealings because there was another competing farm like next door to you. And they were buying up your horses, and then that killed your brother too. And so now you're just like out here looking for like
making up stories.
Yeah. So there'd be this like okay, so you also then you take all these events, right? Like, so your house got covered in blood. Well, let's see how we can interpret that. Like, there's all these different things, and so like, the things that happen in the movie, I think, were orchestrated very well.
Well, see, and that's where
to create a little
I'm sure Melinda Leslie's gonna love this part, but like, I think that's where it was kind of a missed opportunity for like I would have loved for like Men in Black, who maybe you don't even notice in the film, but if you go back and rewatch it, you just see him really small in the background, just checking stuff out throughout the whole film. And then at the end, they come in and clean up.
Yeah.
They come in with their trucks and their guys. They destroy the house. They take all the metals out of the ground. They found, like, maybe a guy in a suit finds the canister of film, like that would have been so cool.
Speaking of which, real quick, the dime or the nickel and the keys, right, that fall from the the thing, the craft in the beginning that kill the dad, that kill Pop. I think that was from the Missing Hikers they talk about in the very, very beginning.
Yes.
You just hear radio, right?
Yep.
Because you're like, well, where did this debris come from?
Yeah.
Right. So like it must have been from the hikers, like
for sure.
Missing,
for sure.
You know what I mean?
For sure it was. Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, I feel like I got to go back and watch just to catch those little little moments like that. And that's what's cool about talking with, you know, film guys about the movie, because we all notice little different things about it. And it's great to have Ken by here as sort of like he's already read every single review out there. I love it. But yeah, it's just I would, man, I think you're right, Sam. I think it would be, even with all of that physical evidence. I mean, look what we do with Ariel. You know, like look at what we do with Roswell or Area 51, or in some cases even Lou Elizondo's, you know, stories and things. Like, I mean, I feel like there's no witness on the planet, no matter how truthful they are, when they tell their version of the story, it's gonna sound fucking crazy every time.
Yeah,
every time. Yeah. And it's gonna be hard to decipher. Okay, what is this person adding to? Like, what is their memory adding to this, or taking away, or exaggerating? I mean, yeah. I just can't
and we only know
a house covered in blood.
A lot about.
Like, if I was Kiki, I'd be like, well, how the hell did I get blood inside the chimney? You know, like how did I do that?
Yeah.
How are there 14 different DNAs, you know, inside, you know, embedded in our lawn? You know,
yeah. Why is there a hover round on my roof? I didn't.
Right. Or did we just put this horse through our truck? Like this statue of a horse through our truck for giggles, for shits and giggles. But I mean, like, again, like, I feel like it, let's just say the story actually happened. Jerks like me on the internet be like, I don't know, you know. but then if you go there and you see it for yourself, you'd be like, oh shit, this is real.
That's exactly what Chris Bartell said, the dude who worked at Skinwalker Ranch. He's like, look, you guys can argue till the end of time, like, that nothing happens at Skinwalker Ranch, but until you're physically there and experience it, like, shut up. Like, you don't. He even said that about, like, some of the people who have claimed to have worked at the ranch or investigated the ranch. And he said, well, you know, I was there 24/7. So, like, shut up or put up. If you really think nothing's going on here, come here. And that's what Brendan Fugel
for 3 years. For
He's
3 years, come
everyone
here.
out there.
Yeah. Not just for like a weekend. Come and sit out here. Yeah.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Melinda Leslie saying the alien craft / entity would have crashed and been recorded. She's like, which I think
the press was right there. The stuff was still in the air.
Yeah, it was still falling down in the air. So I think that I think if it's organic, right? Like, let's say like a jellyfish, a light air jellyfish or something like that. Yeah, I feel like that organic stuff would have to hit the ground, right?
Yeah, take a DNA test.
Yep.
And then of course the DNA test would be like, I don't know about that DNA test. You know, like
there's latex like skin similar to a balloon.
Yeah. Right. Could be. It looks like a weather balloon. High-tech weather balloon.
It was a weather balloon all along. They were right about Roswell.
Well, what would a fossilized one look like?
Well, that's the thing. I don't think it'd leave a fossilized record. I think it'd be like there's no. I don't think there's bones in that thing. There'd
be nothing in the record. Nothing.
Except for the things it consumed.
Yeah, that's it. Again, that's why I'm like, did this thing actually die or not?
But it would be in the shape of its wherever it would hold those metals. But that by itself, I don't think you'd come across that and be like, well, something died here clearly.
Yeah,
dude, it looked like a colony creature, like a siphonophore, like a different, you know what I mean, like just this big gelatinous thing where some cells are doing digestion, some cells are doing mobility, some cells are keeping it all together, some of them are just transporting food from one place to the other. Like, It was very weird.
I really, really think that scene, and I can't wait to see again, like if I'm right or wrong on this, but for me, like that scene where the thing is sitting over the house and just screaming and dropping things on the house, to me, that is because the predator, for me, the predator's not trying to scare its prey, it's trying to lure it out. You know, and like predator doesn't care if you're scared. Like I don't think it's like, you know, Michael Myers where he slowly comes at you, you know, and he looks scary and he is scary. I mean, this thing looks and is scary. It's a predator, but I don't think it. The only intention for me is survival. That's what it's literally territorial hunting. And so when it comes on over the house, to me, it just feels like that's the predator trying to mimic us. That's like the bait. Like, come on out. Like, look, there's keys and blood and sounds.
That's why the territorial thing to me screams that this thing is not extraterrestrial.
Yeah.
I think this was Peele's way of being like, this shit's been here forever. I love that. For what was it, like the second X-Files episode where like Deep Throat says, Mr. Mulder, they've been here for a very, very long time. That still gives me chills, like thinking these things were here long before us and they were just waiting for the perfect moment. And was that perfect moment with the hikers, or was it centuries before that? Like, when did this thing start being like, this is my space?
Here's the thing too, is it kind of hits on the theme a little bit of, you know, how Lou Elizondo always uses that analogy of, you know, when we first went out into the oceans, we would see things, these huge animals, and we thought they were monsters. Turns out they're whales and sharks, and we know how they operate now. This thing, I feel like if it is part of nature, it would be very similar to that, where first we think it's this monster that is just horrific and it's just here to consume and kill everything. And really it's probably more afraid of you than it is of you of it, like most predators. And yeah, I just think it's very cool. It's like, I can imagine a creature like that in 50 years being like, oh yeah, that's the, you know, one-eyed, you know, flying purple people eater, you know, and yeah, that just don't look at it, just ignore it, and it won't hurt you, you know, kind of thing. And then the animal, you know, is still territorial, but only to things natural, like you know, buffalo or whatever is in its territory. And you know, maybe it does occasionally, like a shark, bite off a leg here or there, you know, like it mistakes its prey, you know, and maybe accidentally consumes something. And so, you know, in 50 years, these things are like land sharks essentially, you know, and it's like, okay, don't go to this part of the world at this time of the year, because that's when these things bait or whatever. Like, you know, it would become part of our natural world, where it's not something we fear anymore.
Right.
You know, it's
we can live in communion.
We can live with it. Yeah. Right.
Hopefully. Yeah.
But, you know, I feel like one of the themes of the film that kind of doesn't work, again, is the theme of, you're never going to be able to control nature, but at the end of the film, we beat it. We defeat nature.
Well, I mean, it's kind of, you can't control nature, but you need to respect nature, I think was maybe the more accurate thing.
And you can survive it and live with it. But yeah, I agree with Rather. I think, you know, nature fights back every moment. Every time you see like the roots come through concrete, it's like awesome. Like that's so cool that it fights back. And I do feel like this was the first very messy, war-esque moment of what could possibly become a communion between whatever this invisible resident is and us. And it was bloody and it ate a shit ton of people, but you know, look, like you could say many things about us invading places and killing a ton of people, and then eventually like they become a part of our culture and our history even. So who knows, maybe in 100 years, like we will be you know, going to concerts with these UFOs. I don't know.
Every time I see a
cool?
Melinda Leslie chat, I just see her face in my mind. It just go, "Hey guys,
She's
the storyline said 6 months and been there for 6 months." Melinda, yeah, we hit on that in the first part of the I love her at that. She's so funny, man. Okay, so all right, let's wrap this up because we've been doing it for 2 hours. Wow, that's flown by. By the way, thank you guys for being here. It doesn't need 2 scores, right? Like 1 to 10. We'll start with you, Ryan, and we'll work our way up.
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna go with maybe an 8. I think I agree with you. I think there were some definite plot holes and things that Jordan really reached ambitiously for, and it was just a little off in terms of dialogue and the third act. The third act kind of fell apart for me, which is the most exciting part of the movie. I get that it's mostly action and you're starting to conclude things, but I think it made me think. I'm still thinking about it now. I didn't really like it when I left the theater, but 24 hours later, it's now my favorite Jordan Peele movie. And that took a lot of sitting down and really going through what I just saw and being like, wow, there was so much subtlety in this movie that I didn't really catch. Maybe it's because it was so early in the morning when I saw it, but in reading some reviews and a lot of the things Kent is bringing up too, I appreciate it so much more. So yeah, that's it for me. 8 out of 10.
All right.
Yeah.
Sam, what do you think? What do you got?
I'm gonna give it a 7.3 out of 10. I think that it was like
that is so specific. I love it.
I was gonna say that's the IMDb rating. Actually, IMDb rated it 7.6.
I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, that's a good rating because like
I
love where it attempted to go. I like the Goonies style like ensemble stuff that I try to play with, but I felt that in the very end of the movie when Kiki's character had like taken this thing out and was in the dirt, I didn't know how to feel. Like I was still like, where's the tone? Are we like emotional? Am I supposed to cry, or am I supposed to like? Is it victorious? Like I just did it. Everyone was so separated at that point. And also, I didn't know spatially the distance between the regular ranch, the Haywood ranch, and then the area where Park had set up that other thing, where the other town thing was. And that spatial.
It wasn't far. Okay, I'll tell you how spatial. You remember when OJ goes into the field and he sees those lights?
He could see the
hear. Yes.
He could hear them.
Yes. So it's in the valley. It's in their in their vicinity. I'd say it's probably within a 5 to 10 mile radius at most.
That's what
probably
I found
the closest ranch to him.
Right, like right next door.
Close enough to which we didn't even talk about. Close enough to where his kids came onto their ranch and pranked them as aliens. He thought he was looking at aliens. Those little aliens that you see in the previous spoiler alert, totally not aliens. They're just the Stephen Yeun's kids, giving a little payback for some. What did he do? He stole his horse back.
Yeah, they stole their horse decoy.
They stole the horse back. So, and I was like, damn. When I was like so stoked when I saw those aliens, and they moved at the. I was, oh, this is so cool. And then it turned out the kids. I was like,
Yep.
What's going on here?
That to me was a direct reference to Communion. That's where the alien like peeks from behind the door.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think I just gotta say Communion is my top 1 or 2 alien movies of all time. I think it should be ranked way up. I was surprised when I saw it recently, like how much of the lore it really pulled from. Where like I think Nope is spectacle. And then it plays with the lore versus spectacle. It ties in a little bit of the lore in there. But if you're going for like deep cuts, I mean, this was like just I think your guys' Jaws comparison is so apt. You know what I mean? But like it reached for those heights, but it fell short a little bit in terms of tone and pacing. And I think that's an editing issue, not a directing issue. Acting and everything is superb. But again, with that, like your note on the music too. This thing needed its own theme, you know what I mean? A musical theme, and then it just would be so much more menacing when you've seen it. So for that reason, I think a director's cut has a solid 8.2 8.5, like on the, you know what I mean? But if that comes out, but for as it stands now, I say, it's a great movie.
Okay. That's 7.3. Not a bad score, rather.
I had kind of a same experience as you, Ryan. I think that immediately afterwards, I had a lot of questions, and I didn't, necessarily like it as much as after, I had 24 hours to reflect on it and read it a little bit. I probably would have given it like a 7 right out of the theater, but it really gives you a lot to chew on, and I really like the unusual aspects of it, and it does really make you think a lot. So, at this point, I'll give it a 9. I really enjoyed it, and I, still thinking about it. So I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Nice. And I guess that's the mark of a great film, right? Is that it makes you think about it for sometimes weeks after you watch it. And I think Jordan Peele is very good at making films like that, where you walk out of the theater, you're like, "What the fuck just happened?
Yeah,
what just?
You're blindsided.
What?
Yeah."
And then you start racking your brain, and then you're like, "Okay, I got to go to the internet. What are other people saying about this?
Yeah.
Am I right?
Do these things fit?
Yeah." And so with this, I didn't get that as much. I feel like the tones and the subplots and the subliminal messages that are being sort of delivered in this film, I felt like they were really clear. But yeah, I think I agree with you, Sam. It feels like a movie that's missing stuff. Now that you say it like that, here's the beautiful thing is, and this is great. Like going into it, I heard some bad stuff. I knew some people had seen early screeners of it. Yeah. I had gotten a couple of like early cuts of this do not look good kind of vibes. And so I was like going into it going, man, this is not going to be what I expect. And it totally wasn't. And I was really stoked about it. Like I was really, really happy about, even though that organic sort of, they've been here the whole time is a hypothesis that we've talked about, we've thrown on the table. But we've never seen that translated on film before. The craft has no occupants. It is an animal. That is just really, really cool. It's almost like Stephen King's, was it Christie, where the truck is like an animal. So I'm going to give it a 7.5. I think there's room for improvement. There's some jumpy cuts, and I think you're right. It's got nothing to do with direction.
What is that movie called?
It's got nothing to do with direction. It's got nothing to do with acting. I think both of those are superb. I think where this movie falls short a little bit is editing, and some of the parts that they kept in. So that has to do with editing and the score. Those are the two things I think where this movie could have really, really, I think if you get a killer score on this film, it amps it up by a lot. So yeah. And if there's a ever director's cut, I'm definitely willing to change that score to depending on the director's cut, but 7.5 for a summer blockbuster film. I don't think it's going to win him an Oscar, this film. I don't think it's going to be the biggest movie or the best movie of the year. It's a very fun, decent sci-fi flick.
I feel like he knows that too. I feel like he knows this is not his masterpiece. I feel like this was his movie. He has the luxury now of picking actors he wants to work with to get a shit ton of money from Universal. They will throw money at him to make a movie. So I think he had fun. He
signed on to make like a few movies after he did Get Out.
And he clearly wanted to make a movie about UFOs, and he did. Like, awesome. And
he nailed it.
This is just going to get more people interested in the UFO topic, especially since he brought up the term UAP. Everyone's going to be like, wait, what the hell does that mean?
I also love, shit like that. I love the excuse for UAP, like why they changed it. Everybody just completely, they're like, what the fuck's UAP? It just changes the top. I was like, damn, nobody really ever kind of said that, did they? I'm like, yeah, that's good. That might be that might be spot on, right?
Right.
So Kempai had a couple more things and we're gonna get out of here. But Kempai said AP asked if he was affected by the Navy UAP images. Peele said, quote, I was. It made me very, very much in the moment. It's one of the reasons I guess I could proudly say this movie is based on a true story. When actual video proof of a UFO comes out, that's something that would change in our lifestyle. Not it's really business as usual. It just proves that there's a desensitization to the spectacle. And he's right. Like, Jesus Christ, we announced that UFOs are real, and we kind of just glossed over it. And
it's not the money shot, though, as they say.
It's not. It's not the Oprah shot. Yeah, we don't have the Oprah shot yet. That's
we don't have the triangle coming out of the ocean yet.
Yeah.
But here's the thing about those shots is we've got Galileo Project. We got Jordan Peele that just made a blockbuster summer movie about it because because of that story. James Webb. You've got Kent By, the guy who's sitting here. This is not something he usually talks about. He's usually on the forefront of AI and systems like that. And Kent By sort of, every once in a while, dives into this UFO topic. But like really smart people are starting to come into the conversation. Kurt J. Mungle, Eric Weinstein. Now we've got Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick. So I think it's not the Oprah shot, but it's the shot that got the conversation going. And it's got congressional movement as well going. So, it's something. It's not the thing we're all looking for, but it's a thing that really's got this conversation going in a really cool direction. And it's because of this. It's because of those 3 videos. And then to finish up the quote, it says, "We're addicted and we're in over our heads with this addiction. We have proof of UFOs or UAPs, but the interest with the major public goes so far. It's very interesting."
Amen. Yeah, he hit it on the head. Yeah, even the New York Times story, like how many people still don't even know about that? It's crazy.
Yeah. No, it's a lot.
It's changing, but it's crazy. Yeah.
I mean, again, I love it. I think it's not going to hurt the conversation. It only helps. And I think this is a really fun movie that just took a different approach to the question, which I think is awesome. I'm so happy he made this movie. I'm glad that it sounds like Jordan Peele's also a believer.
Yeah. We got another one. You got to get him on the show, man.
Trust me. I tweeted at him 3 times.
Dude, that'd be amazing.
Yeah,
if anyone can do it, you can.
I would love to get Jordan Peele on the show. I mean, there are like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon that I could work to possibly make that happen. But I don't know. Like it's always weird asking for, hey man, I know Jordan Peele. Could he? Ask him to come on my UFO podcast. Like I don't, what I mean? That's always a awkward ask.
Yeah.
But dude, Kurt's still here.
Oh,
it's a tad askew. Agreed. Kurt, I'm gonna reach out to you. We'll get you on the show. We'll have a good time, man. There's no pressure here. We'd love to have you and pick your brain, and I know everything you'll say would be awesome. But Ryan, before you get out of here, what are you working on? What do you got coming up next? What's shaking?
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, I mean, speaking of movies, I am working on my second feature right now, a horror movie that I wrote. I'm working with a filmmaker here in Brooklyn who's going to be working on that with me. So be on the lookout for that, hopefully in the next year or so. Other than that, my CW show I co-host, Mysteries Decoded, just started a new season. So you can watch that. I think it's every Wednesday. And then I got to show this before we go, this beer that I got.
Nice.
Check that out.
Who makes
it? It's literally called Go Fast.
Go Fast.
Nice.
It's by
Skygazer Brewery, who I'm going to be working with in the very near future on some stuff. So if you have Skygazer Brewery in your town, definitely try to look for this Go Fast beer. I flipped out when I saw it. Talk about going mainstream, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, dude. Somewhere in the skies every Monday, wherever you get podcasts.
Oh, check this out. Kurt says rather over LMH.
We got ahead of that. Said I should interview Molten Howell with Kurt. That would be awesome. I'd love that.
That would be a massacre.
Dude. I don't know if Molten Howell would agree to that though.
She was not happy with my question. That was for sure. And I thought that was
Oh no.
Pretty simple question. Pretty simple. But anyway, Sam, what are you working on, brother? What do you got cooking?
Always cooking on the Timeline Project, and also editing a feature documentary for the UFO Garage guys. So there is a trailer. I mean, be on the lookout for some stuff coming up from that. So it should be pretty exciting. But I'm excited to talk about it.
I love the UFO Garage guys. Yeah, I got to hit them up. They actually designed the website for the Big Phone Home too. I'm gonna hit them up this weekend. Yeah, dude, they're the best, man. They're the absolute salt of the earth guys.
They really are. They really are.
Yep.
And they put together an amazing piece. I mean, they went out and did the work, like the real work that real researchers got to do. Like they got their hands dirty, boots in the ground, and talked to an amazing experience. So they talked to Melinda Leslie. Like I'm editing video of them and Jim Goodall and all kinds. It's great. It's cool.
Yeah,
it's a privilege. I'll say that. So
rather, you're still. Where can people find you, Sam?
Where can you find the trailer or like the
find your stuff
or my stuff?
Find you. Yeah.
Oh, Twitter account Tupacabra, and then YouTube Tupacabra, TikTok. It's all there. But definitely check it out. I mean, I'll be producing some more content soon for like the TikTok and stuff. And it's just there's so much content coming out, and I just digest it as best I can. Add some music, some cool clips, and then throw it out there for everybody.
Awesome, man. I can't wait to check out what you're working on with the boys over at UFO Garage. What are we cooking this week? Anything?
Special. Yeah, no, I'm still researching underwater intelligence, so like dolphins and whales, and now I've got a little bit more food for thought about how something like Nope maybe could have evolved in the ocean. So yeah, stay tuned. I got some interesting theories that I'll be putting forward.
Excellent, man. All right, you guys. Well, that's it for us. We've got a show coming up Thursday. I don't think we show Wednesday. We got nothing to review. But we'll be coming back with the reviews on Wednesdays. We'll be working on some more review stuff. But I'm not sure exactly what we're going to be talking about on Thursday yet. But I'm sure
some crazy new news that's going to happen during the week.
Something will be popping. Yeah. Well, I think we're going to either have Daniel Miller stop by. And Grant LeBach as well. So Grant LeBach does some really great stuff in Australia, and he's also agreed to write our template for Australia for the Big Phone Home. So we've got an Australian template from Grant LeBach. We've got Daniel Otis writing our Canadian template, and we've got John Greenwald writing our U.S. template to send to lawmakers. We need one for the U.K. So if anybody out there knows anybody who wants to send in a template letter to us for U.K. residents, or anywhere really. Anywhere in the world, send them to me, and we'll make sure to get them on the website so people can use them when they contact their local and state officials if they live in a government like that. Anyway, that's it. Have a great night, you guys. Thank you, everybody here on the panel. That was a lot of fun. That was a really, really fun show. So thanks for being here, gentlemen. We'll see you guys soon. And we'll see you guys out there soon. Love you all. Peace. I'm going to tell y'all right now, all of these wonderful people would not be here without Patreon supporters like you. If you enjoy credible news, reviews, and commentary on UFOs and UAPs 5 days a week, you want to support this show. What's your name? Marty. Marty, look how easy this is, Marty. Pick up your phone. Boom! You're a Patreon member. I mean, look, it's so easy. You just click the link, which is right here. Just for $1 a month, you can support this show. Just fill out the information and pledge what's comfortable for you. It could be $1, $5, $10, or who knows. Just support.